Hello and welcome to episode 407 of the Awesome Comics Podcast, the place where the small press makes one hell of a big noise. My name is Vince Hunt, and joining me, as always, is the creator of the webcomic Vanguard, Dan Butcher.
Hello.
Our very own John Boy Walton, Tony Esmond.
That's a nice little reference off Mike, wasn't it? Yeah. I'm surprised you two youngsters got it.
Very wholesome.
Yes,
that's lovely. We had a really professional moment, like just before we started recording, and then I ruined it by fluffing up the intro that you'll never hear. But still, we've got the whole crew are here today. Wow, no, actually, one, two, actually, there's someone else here.
Yes.
Yes, indeed.
I guess they're going to have to be here for the entire episode, I guess, as we chat comics and artwork. It seems to be. He's walked in off the streets. It's the creator of the Penned Guins and one hell of a comics aficionado himself. Friend of the show, Alan Henderson. Hello, sir.
I think I'm on the wrong show. I mean, Tony, don't we normally talk about something else? But
yeah. We normally rabbit on about something else. Yeah.
What are you?
Good to have you out. Good to have you out.
Tony, are you seeing people behind our back? Is that what you're saying? Is this?
Oh, don't be like that, darling.
It's funny. It's all making sense now. Yeah. Isn't that right, Dan?
You know what I was like when you got with me, baby.
I have a question for you, though, Vince. From that off-air comment, how many is too many?
Yeah, good point, actually. How many is too many?
I reckon it all depends on
3
diameter.
Oh, good shout. Yeah.
4 or 5.
That's true.
4 or 5.
That's true.
4 or 5.
Okay.
4 or 5. Wow, look at you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Much like, I mean, how many comics do you read at a time? 4, 5? What's the most comics you've ever read?
Don't pretend that's what we were talking about.
This is a comic book show, Tony.
I know.
Very, very professional. What's the most comics you've ever read in one go?
One go or one day?
What had on
one go in one sitting.
Oh,
there's a question.
Yeah. It's easier when you've got like an omnibus in front of you or something like that.
Yeah. But take away omnibuses. Just say you sat down, you're like, oh, I got my weekly comics, like a pile of little comics. I'm going to sit down with a drink and I'm just going to read a few issues. How many issues do you read in that?
Well, I know what this is for me recently because I keep in a record, but you two other guys speak first.
Last time I got a pull list, I think I had about 6 or 7 and I just blazed through all of them. To be fair, that isn't much of an undertaking.
One after the other.
When they're like 21 pages each, it's not really.
And there's not many words.
Yeah. Ginyar, Kasplat, Kapal, etc.
It comes. I was going to say I can think of a day off sick where you're stuck in bed for the day and just sat and read maybe about 20, just off the to be read pile one after another just to go through.
Yeah, again, I said 20. 20 is what I'm going with it.
Some of it depends as well. If you've saved up a mini-series and you just go, I'm just going to get through this.
Yeah.
You buy a nice little run of issues at a mart or something like that, then you can easily do that,
Yeah.
I reckon.
I think that's when you probably like you say, you chew through some issues. I mean, I've read some digital issues. I'm like, right, I need to get the next issue now, straight away. Do you know what I mean? I'm just chewing through it. But separate stories, maybe that slows down the pace a little bit more. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think it does. Yeah, because they cram more story in back then. Yeah. I mean, it's easier to read a long run of comics these days because sometimes they go on for like 12 issues, don't they, the story? Yeah. Back in I was reading a couple of old issues of the Defenders today, and it's like one story an issue, and you're like, okay, that took a while. Yeah.
Yeah. All good stuff, though.
Yeah.
And do you know where else you can find loads of great comics?
You can read as many as you like there.
You can read as many as you like. Our lovely sponsors, Comic House. Yes, the indie comic marketplace that we love. They love indie comics just as much as we do and as much as you do. So go to comichouse.com, find out. There's a huge selection of titles available on their database, and you can find out more about them. And if you self-publish, it's another avenue for you to get your work out there. But they also have a digital app. We'll be talking a little bit about digital in some ways in our topic, which we haven't discussed yet, but I'll do the intro in a bit. But for only £3 a month, basically like Netflix for comics, you get access to an enormous... An enormous?
Enormous.
An enormous.
New word.
Enormous, write it down. It was discovered this day and we're copywriting it. An enormous library of digital indie comics. And you can read as many as you want. Perhaps you're ill, perhaps you're just waiting for the bus or something. You can just churn through loads of comics. well, we've all done it. I mean, sometimes when I'm on like a train journey or just travel is a great time to read comics sometimes, isn't it?
Yeah, it's
No doubt,
like on a train. Yeah.
So, and if you go to Comic House and join their app, you can read and discover loads of great new independent voices.
I'll tell you it's a good place to read comics is on a plane because you haven't got a phone to look at. I like that. Yeah. That's a good one. No distractions.
Am I right in thinking the Penned Guins can be found on Comixology?
Comics
House, sorry.
Comics House.
Fucking hell, how many years we
Yeah, I found that out.
A
Sorry,
number
Pete.
of the books. I'll bring you back, Dan. Don't worry. So a number of the books can be found on Comic House. I need to put the last one up yet. Enough time has probably now passed since the Kickstarter. I always like to leave time between a Kickstarter and putting things on the Comic House.
Yeah.
I think it's only fair for those that have paid the money. So I'll need to get what next up. But yeah, you can certainly read several thousand comic strips from the Penned Guin up there if you wish.
There you go. That's good.
I did think today, I wonder what the process of putting Vanguard back on Amazon. And I thought, I can't be fucking bothered. So, there's not enough hours in a day.
What a
to
pro.
worry about that.
Yeah, no, don't worry about that.
I wonder where that was going. And then it sort of abruptly ended.
Yeah. Just...
So
there's that. I've got limited time on this earth and trying to navigate through that.
Don't say that, Dan. You're going to be around forever.
Don't we make us sad. I was looking on it today, actually, funny enough. The sales on there have gone to shit, haven't they? They're rubbish now.
Yeah, they just absolutely fucking nixed it, didn't they? And then...
Yeah.
What are we talking about?
Comixology.
Oh, right. Well, never mind them. Get Comic House. Go to comichouse.com and find out more about a 14-day free trial and get the app. Because it's brilliant. And thanks to the Comic House guys for supporting us as always.
I was on there today, reading comics on there today.
There you go.
There you go. And you all should too as well. So, speaking of comics, we're just going to get straight into it this week. There's a reason Alan's here. He does have a mind for comics. He's got an eye for great comic artwork. And the medium of comic books...
And in that drive.
The medium of comic books is of course close to all our hearts, and if you listen to this, it's close to your heart too. What would the medium be without its artwork and artists? Well, it'd just be prose, so it'd be a completely different medium, but that's by the by. And we all have those artists whose work we love, and some of us are lucky enough to own some of their pages, which is both awesome, inspiring, and it also inspires jealousy in other people that don't have those pages, which we'll probably get onto that as well. Because this week, we're going to be focusing on the entire world of original comic artwork. Now, we'll be discussing some original pages, dealers, probably commissions, all kinds of things. And Al has quite a collection himself. We've been privy to see some of the stuff he's got, and it's absolutely amazing. But to start us off,
you're in it. It's not. You've already seen it. You're both in it. I was going to say.
Yeah, there you go. I'm
blushing. Well, I've single-handedly devalued Alan's collection by quite a margin. But no, in all seriousness, there are of course some listeners out there who have never really bought original artwork, and especially with modern comics as they are, and we've talked about digital artwork and the way things are going, etc. There are, of course, artists who still love the pen and ink, the pen and paper, the brush, the collage, the gouache, all of that, the paint. It's wonderful stuff. But there are some comic readers who know nothing about the comic art, the original comic art world. Yeah. Now, I know.
Well, firstly, it's a great place to go if you just want to get rid of your money.
Yes. Well, the things we're going to be talking about are not necessarily. Yeah, you can just pop down the road and just pick up some. Some of this is, and we've been having a WhatsApp conversation. Tony and Al have been sharing articles with us all over the shop, and we've been looking at some amazing stuff. But yes, it is quite a chunk of cheddar that some people are willing to spend.
But
there's a spectrum. There's a spectrum.
Yeah, there is. That's true, mate. How about this then? I'm going to challenge you. I think Al will probably know this because I think we've talked about this, Al. But a Dark Knight Returns cover, OA original art. How much did it go for? Vince and Dan, get the nearest.
What is it? What?
It's the one with the lightning strike through the shadow.
So it's just ink.
Blue coloured piece of work.
Yeah,
it's a coloured piece. Oh god.
Yeah.
I'm going to say I might be completely off base here, but $50,000.
Add another zero at the end.
Fucking hell.
2.4 million.
And another. There you go.
Yeah.
Do you know what?
2.4 million.
I couldn't read how you reacted to that because I wasn't sure whether to go lower or higher. Well, I never would have gotten that number.
No way. God.
Okay.
Now.
And then you know the famous image of him sort of crammed into the page.
Yes.
Which was also a cover of Dark Knight. Just the line work for that, black and white, inked pencil over pencils, I believe. How much?
That's
100 grand.
Oh, no. Mil.
478k. Almost $500,000.
I'm sure show my hand here how shit I am at OA.
Yeah. And we are, of course, what we're talking about now is like high-end, like legendary pieces of a legendary.
So Al's only got 4 of those.
Yeah, I have the other 2 coming. Yeah. No. So this is where I think we need to start with what is original art.
Yeah,
in
good
terms of things here. Yeah. So, because I come at it from the basis of saying I think there's a range or spectrum of what you can define as original art, and across that as well, the price changes, and again, some of it depends on how legendary the piece is or what the characters are. But I reckon it goes from you can start with a simple remark where somebody's just doodled on the cover and gone, there you go, thank you very much, and something they've spent 10, 15, 20 seconds on. That to me, that is a starting point for original.
That counts,
art. And I think it's it perfectly valid. And
so beyond not a signed cover, you're saying a sketched on cover. Is that what you're saying?
Just a remark, just something where they're going there. Maybe some of this is also how much time has been spent on it by the artist. There's so you've got a remark. You've then got what I would call a sketch. Now, the definition of what a sketch has changed over the years as well. But I would say that's something that an artist probably at a convention spends 5-10 minutes on, tops.
Okay.
Right?
Okay.
And also that's become a sort of mini business in its own through sketch covers, for instance.
I'm going to say that depends on the artist, Al. I think you're right, man. That's how I would see a sketch. But I remember buying something off a creator at a convention and describing it online as a commission. And he said, no, that's a sketch. Oh, okay.
Well, which is where I was going to go next. There is this where sketches stop and commissions begin. Okay.
Okay. Yeah.
Because I think you're right. There's a weird blend there.
Depends on the artist sometimes, I think, doesn't it, as well? Yeah.
And I think there's a difference between a sketch/commission done at a convention versus one done at home.
Fair.
Okay. Good point.
And that's partially, are you sitting with all your materials around you? Are you taking your time over it?
Not distracted,
and all those sorts of things. And that a lot of those sorts of things, the remark, the sketch, the commission, are generally where you're saying to the person, "Could you do this for me?" Right, and it's being done there, and it's not art that has already been produced for the production of an actual comic.
Yeah.
Right? So it is original art, but it's not. It's not properly one-off territory just for you. Okay.
Yeah, which obviously has its issues as well, because very occasionally you'll get OA that is produced for someone that will then appear on a variant cover sometimes. Even though I've seen that where a couple of people I'm in on an OA forum with have said, hang on a minute, I didn't think this was going to be a cover to an IDW book, for example. And next thing he's turned up as a variant, which is an interesting sort of duality of it, I think.
I've had that happen. Well, I've had it happen to me with a Shadow Zine over in the States.
Okay. Right.
Okay. Where the artist granted them permission to use the image that he'd produced as a cover for this magazine that they're doing.
That you'd paid for, sort of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
But the artist retains a copyright, so I've got no harm or foul.
Yeah.
And I actually know the guys that do the magazine, so I wasn't too fussed. I was more like, "Hey, that's mine." I got really excited about it.
Yeah, that's good.
But so I've seen that happen. So those I think that's one world of OA. So we can go down that, talk about that as well. I then think we need to also say that there's a completely different set of OA, which is the production artwork.
Yeah.
Which can starts with the roughs, and you'll see a lot of them kicking around online at the moment because they are loose sketches and all that sort of stuff. You've then got the actual published pages themselves, which kind of can subdivide into just a standard run-of-the-mill page versus a splash page versus a double page spread.
And you also get the subdivision of that of like inked over blue line. So people who've drawn it on a computer, printed it out and inked over it. Or you get just pencils, which is a page I ordered today, which is just pencils because it is obviously going to be maybe inked by someone else digitally, for example.
Yeah.
So there's a variety in that as well, Al, isn't there? That affects pricing, I think, as well.
Entirely. And then you move into the world of covers. Which generally,
don't forget you got that color guide thing that's going on as well.
Oh yeah, you got color guides as well. Yeah. Sorry, I didn't even mention them.
Yeah, they seem to pop up on eBay quite a lot now, don't they?
They're properly old school. I've got one of those. I think again relating to a shadow page, but partially again where it is just somebody sat in and called it in and said, "Well, these are the colours that will go in each of the boxes." Okay. And then I think the other thing that, from a collecting perspective, is actually to say, have you got the whole story? So if you really have you really gone out the box and got all 22 pages of a 22-page comic?
There's the famous one is Larson with Commandy, isn't he? He's got a couple of issues, I think, of the whole story. Wow. Have you done that, Al? Is that something you've done?
So I've got a couple of stories that are 6 pages long.
Right.
We've got a Hunt Emerson one,
nice.
And I've got a Steve Scott one, which was a shadow one. That was all and again that's and I've got a couple of small press people who've done things as well. And it's to me it's the next stage on about saying, right, so you've got bits to suddenly going, I've got the complete thing. So I think there is that whole spectrum of what is original art, and that means you should in theory be able to come at it with any budget to turn around and go, ideally I just want a sketch that is going to cost me.
Can I add one?
Yeah.
Dude? Jam pieces.
Okay. Yeah.
Yes.
Which is, I know, is kind of where you're coming from for sketches and commissions, but it's just I thought I'd mention
it's a different beast, isn't it?
Yeah, almost. Yeah, because some people would charge for that and some people won't.
Because if you had one artist like who, since did Al, like he did loads of different shadow bits, but if he did the shadow bit of artwork on a whole load of them, on
all different characters from the shadow movie or the shadow comic or something.
Well, this is a bit of a different. I mean, does that price-wise would that affect it differently? Say you had a jam piece as opposed to a single piece by a single artist. I would have thought the jam piece would have been devalued by the fact that it had more people on it.
I don't know. What do you think about resale, Al? I mean, I'm guessing you don't buy your commissions for a resale, do you? Or
no, I truly come at this very much. You don't buy any original art for investment. Right. You buy it because you like it, right? Now, other people will have a different viewpoint, but what is I will almost always say, please mark it to Alan, and get people to sign it that way and all that sort of stuff. Yeah. So so I'm not in it for a value purpose there. Do I think it devalues to have a jam piece? No, I think it can go the other way depending on who you actually get together. And I do think there's some, again, all of this is about, if you're wanting to collect these things, choose your approach and do it your way, right? And there's different ways to do it. So there are some people who go around with trading cards that they've had made up that you can get their sketches on, so they can collect them that way. I used to carry a whole lot of sketchbooks around Collins with different themes for each sketchbook.
Yeah.
And that meant that people could just, sketch in that sketchbook. And that's kind of a jam piece, but on individual things.
You've almost got to leave, because I think it's good to have a couple of those. I've done that as well.
Yeah.
A couple of New Yorks, but you kind of have to leave the book with them sometimes, don't you?
Yeah.
And sometimes they might take a whole day. So if you've got a couple, it works better, I think. I know what you mean. Yeah.
And I think, the concept of actually saying get multiple people to be on the one piece. Yeah, that's great. People do specific things. You can actually. I've seen people start off with a big A3 piece and have somebody do really rough layouts of where all the bodies are going to be, and then go around saying, "Right, I'm collecting all the X-Men." Right. That particular body shape over there has been, having somebody set it up in advance so that people will know where they're going, or you can just collect headshots or whatever.
Yeah.
But all of this comes down to it's the thing, it's the spectrum of what original art is, and you play to your own budget. You play to the events that you're at, or how you're able to get hold of these pieces.
Yeah,
and there's still cheap things out there, but a lot of it comes down to being in the right place at the right time.
Right.
There's a lot of very expensive artwork at the moment by artists who are considered cool at the moment. That it seems to be just flying off the shelves as soon as there's a drop.
Say in a couple of years' time when that person falls out of favour.
Yeah. So we'll get onto the companies that now run OA seemingly, but you'll get what's called a drop. So you'll say John Smith's comics drop in at 12 noon on Tuesday. Get in while you can. And it creates a rush, and it creates a competition, and it creates a market just by doing that. And I think that's one.
It's the nature of the beast in the industry anyway, isn't it? Like the flashiest, newest, hottest creative on the scene. Everyone wants a piece. Everyone wants.
It's the art scene, man. It's what it's like.
And also, it's like, better get them now because in 5 years, because comics is always. Whether it really matters anymore, but it's always a speculation business, isn't it? Even though, like as you say, Al, you should always
for some people,
you should always get it for yourself. But I think there's a lot of buyers who are like, get them cheaper now, sell them higher later.
I was thinking about
sadly, and it's a weird set of economics. Sorry, Tony? The other thing here is that there's a bit about this where we want the artists to get their pay, to get their due. Right, very much so, and I'm going back to when I started collecting, which is the early 2000s, where the eBay sort of existed. The internet, from a buying and selling perspective, wasn't as big a thing, right? So you were able to go to events, or I remember going to one Bristol one year. We're about 2003 or something like that.
Okay.
And I got something like 30 sketches from people. And I'd be lucky if I spent £30-40 on those sketches, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because even then it was a case of stand in a queue, you get to the front of the queue, person does a little sketch for you, and then goes to the next person in the queue.
Yeah.
eBay then killed that. Because people would get a sketch and then they'd put it up on eBay and sell it for whatever price. And obviously the artists are going, well, hang on, where's my turn? Where's my bit on that? Yeah. And that, and that's where the economics of this start to become, more interesting. And that's where doing things like creating a market, as you said, be doing the drops of saying there's nothing, you're not going to get anything from this artist for the next 12 months because they're going to build up a pile of pieces to sell at once. And then release them at once, so everyone's going, and of course it's now a worldwide market, so everybody, there's enough people out there. You eventually find your price point.
Yeah, I know they're about to drop. They're about to drop the Mr. Fix-It issue 4, aren't they? Yeah. So they coordinate it with the release of the comics as well. So I think a lot of these dealers now will say, right, Mr. Fix-It number 5 is coming out in 2 weeks' time. The day it comes out, we'll drop the OA from is it Ildre Signar? I can't remember his name now, but and that will fucking inflate the prices.
Yeah. Plus, there's a synchronicity, isn't there? Sorry, Dan.
Yeah,
no worries.
Between dealers and sort of art agents now, because when the artists they're hitting big, they're usually signed up with something. Because we also got to remember that these artists. It's a full-time gig anyway. They're doing all this stuff. So then sometimes they sign up with people because then they can handle all the, it's almost another job to sell artwork, isn't it? Really.
Well, increasingly, if you go to like any of the big American conventions and seemingly some of the UK conventions now, there'll be a number of artists there who are all part of it, almost a little firm. So. Well, it's no secret. Matt Simmons is part of it. Scott's Collectibles, I think it's called.
Yeah.
Matt's part of that, and if you find Matt, he'll be in a little row of creators, all of whom work with that little group of books, and they'll all have I don't want to call them minders, but they have people who sort of help them, book the hotel rooms and get them on flights, and coordinate the commission lists and stuff like that. To be fair, the Scott's Collectible guys are fucking brilliant. They're the nicest, funniest guys you'll ever meet. They're really nice guys. And I think they've become like friends of mine, and they'll be the ones say, "Oh, So, for example, Las Vegas Comic Con will want Martin, and Scott's Collectibles will say, "Oh yeah, sure, but did you want these guys as well? Because these are on the new hot books, and they'll manage the sale of their comics pages." And Martin's doing well out of his comic, and rightly so, because they fucking see the effort he puts into it. There's a lot of that going on, and you'll see that with Felix, you see that with Cadence, you see that with Inky Knuckles, you see that with the Kirby's, all this sort of thing. There's almost a little firm, and they're almost like their banners are sort of slightly color coded, so you can tell they're all part of the same group.
That makes sense.
Like yeah.
Gives you somebody to cover your table and all that sort of stuff as well.
Yeah, definitely.
But it's been a big change at conventions because again, I'm going to go back to that prime spot in the early 2000s. You'll remember it, Tony, well.
Yeah, you had a table in 2003.
You wander around Bristol, and you would go up to somebody like I don't know, Stas Johnston or Mike Collins or whatever, and they'd have whatever on the table, but they'd also have a 3-inch pile of comic pages. They were like individually marked, or they're 40 quid each, and you would just go through them and eventually go, I'll have this one, I'll have that one, or whatever. And all of that's gone now, and that's partially because of all the different approaches that people are taking.
Yeah, mostly gone out, I'm going to say. There's a few people, who are still
Roger
doing
Language still has big piles of them.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
Does artist resale rights apply to comic art work? Do you know?
I don't know, actually. I don't know.
It kind of sprung into mind as we were talking, because in obviously the fine art world, some pieces have artist resale rights on them. So every time the work is sold forward, the artist gets a cut of that.
I don't know, actually.
Of course, the other side would be.
The other side of the thing is stolen artwork as well, which is a big issue. If you listen to Mega City Book Club from last week, they're talking about a book that was sort of, artists, talking about different artists. And someone turned up the front counter of the publisher and just said, I've come to collect the art for that book, and was handed like the best art, Eisner, all these sort of people, was handed a load of artwork and just left. And it turned out it was just a scam. He just turned up, took a chance, and managed to walk out with all the stolen artwork.
Fucking hell.
So, yeah. Which is
Fucking
great.
Hell.
Yeah. And you're always hearing about people having artwork stolen at conventions, or out the back of cabs or something like that, aren't you?
Mate, that kills me a little bit inside when I hear those stories.
Yeah, thinking I didn't get away with that one.
Yeah, that could have been me. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Here's I thought we could play a little game. Just bear with me on this one. So, Al and I kind of, Al more than me, but we both know what we want when we look for art. And I thought I might say to you, Vince and Dan, is we're going to give you £500, right? And you get to go anywhere on the internet and look for artwork. What do you look for? So, do you look for an artist first? Do you look for a character first?
Yeah, mine would be the artist straight away, someone I liked, and then see what kind of characters they did. Obviously, I'd know, but a lot of my choice are going to be Mike Zeck, going for him, and I would see what kind of. I'd love to have a Cat piece, Punisher piece, G.I. Joe stuff, and then you'd start looking at the kind of the characters over the price, as we were discussing previously.
Yeah. If you're going to do it, Vince, who would you do, and would you want them on the page, or how would you want it?
I mean, I think in a weird kind of way, the ones that are my dream pages have been lost to time. Which is probably like, those Battle Storm Force issues and stuff, that whole stuff that was just unfortunately just lost, wasn't it? A lot of the stuff from the early 80s, etc., especially in the UK scene. And the more I sort of looked into those books, the more I looked at those pages, the more I was like, I so wish I had the original page of this. But there is other artworks. I think for me, I would probably search for the artist name first, possibly.
Okay.
Unless there was a specific page, a specific issue. For instance, mentioned it before, around the Mutant Massacre, the Alan Davis Wolverine Sabretooth fight. I think I mentioned it when we talked about. I think we said about
after the mark, didn't we? Talk about it. Yeah.
Which page do you have? So there's stuff like that, but I would look for the likes of obviously Jason Pearson meant a lot to me back in the day. R.I.P. But like Humberto Ramos,
Chris
Pacello. a lot of there's a lot of artists where
you only got 500 quid, mate.
Yeah, I know. I know. That's the thing is, so I'll probably just get a little bit of a doodle.
Yeah, because Al, you're very sort of. I'm only presuming here. Tell me if I'm right or not. You're sort of quite a lot of your collecting is character specific.
So
is that right?
I was going to say, so I would go in, if I was looking for a commission piece, then you're right. My first port of call would be to get the shadow, right?
Yeah, because if I see a shadow piece of art online, I'll honestly, I message you and go, "Is it you, mate?"
Yeah,
and
there was a period in time back in the day when the number of times if it was a British comic artist was drawing the shadow, then invariably it was for me.
Yeah.
So that would be my first port of call. However, if I'm going for pages, it's a slightly different approach.
Okay.
Clearly, if there are shadow pages out there, then that would be something for me to go and investigate closely. Thereafter, I've tried to make sure over time I've picked up pieces by the artists that have done the shadow, even if I can't get a shadow piece by them. That's why I have Johnny Hazard pieces by Frank Robbins, for example.
Nice.
It's because I can't get Frank Robbins' shadow piece, so I got a Johnny Hazard piece out.
They were great, man. Those Frank Robbins strips.
Yeah.
Fucking brilliant.
Thereafter, it really just comes down to, do I like the page? Right?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. That's how I feel.
And your aesthetics. Yeah.
Yeah. So I also always try to keep an eye out for Batman Legends of the Dark Knight.
Yeah.
I've got about, I think it's 7 or 8 pages from that 200 issue run.
Also known for using really good artists, that run, wasn't it?
And so the idea of saying, can I try and pick up all of the artists that featured in Legends of the Dark Knight across that period. But I always, again, and that's where you can start saying, right, if it's a Batman book, ideally you want Batman on it, but is it a story page? Is it a page that has enough story on it?
Okay.
Where you can say, I'm getting something from it. So I've got a Barry Kitson page from Legend of the Dark Knight where it starts off the top panel, I think, is Gordon, and he basically is doing a call out to his snipers. And it's then just like 7 or 8 panels after that with Sniper 1 going, I'm here, as they work their way down. And it tells
nice little story in a frame,
and you're like, you kind of, because I cannot, or I would not automatically choose a page that finished on a turn of going, and then this happened.
Gotcha.
No, the reveal is the next page. The setup.
Have you ever
very difficult to own?
Yeah, I get you. Have you ever sought out a comic that has meant a lot to you to buy a page from it? Does that make sense? So
So I've got Norm Brayfogle was somebody or one of my heroes, comic heroes. And eventually managed to get in contact with him through and organize a bunch of stuff. So I did get I've got page 1 from Shadow the Bat #2, which is a nice opening splash page on that.
I've got a page from that run as well when he's in prison, when they put him in prison in that one.
Yeah, so it's a really early page from that I've got. And that was kind of one of those sort of mini grail pages for me because it was Brayfogle, it was Shadow of the Bat. I was able to obviously he signed it when he sent it across, and I was able to get it signed by both the inker and then Alan Grant. I met up with him
nice.
at one point. So it's got the complete package in terms of that. So that was kind of one of those moments of going, right, that's a book that's really important to me because Grant and Brayfogle being the sort of key Batman thing for me as an individual, and being a splash page from their book. And so that ticked all of those boxes and said, right, that's everything off for me.
Yeah, I've done it myself. I did it for the last issue of Master of Kung Fu. I desperately wanted a page from that. And because I remember back then I was reading Master of Kung Fu at issue 125, and I didn't know it was ending because you didn't know about things like that then. And it suddenly had him walking away from the life, and I'm like, oh my god, my favorite comic just ended. And I managed to get a page, Alan Kupperberg with Magnolia Inks, and I managed to get a page from that, which is fucking marvelous. Yeah, that's framed in front of me now. Yeah.
Do you not feel a real weight with having the original pages like that? Like,
yeah, I do.
You've been charged with a responsibility.
Yeah, wait, and I hate to say it because it's a mortal sin, isn't it? But a little bit of pride that I own it. But
fair enough.
A little bit of that, and I always keep an eye out in case they decide to do like a master, one of those artist editions of Master of Kung Fu or any of the other pages I own. I always keep an eye out, thinking because occasionally when they do these masterworks, they'll send a call out. Has anyone got the original pages from this, John Buscema run of the Avengers or something like that? And people actually lend their artwork to it, don't they?
I wonder how that works. Would you have to send it off or
that's what happens?
Okay, because that's a fucking responsibility. So if that got lost.
I'm guessing they must insure it up the arse around the sort of Watchmen pages and stuff, Because
calling back to that, when you said about you'd have several sketchbooks on the go and you left them at an artist table, say that sketchbook was like 2/3 completed and someone's working on it, you're leaving them with a lot of one-off art there. Because if that goes walkies or if someone spills their drink on it, you're like, well, what's going to happen now?
And we haven't talked about the real high-end people who have... There's that famous sketchbook that apparently Sienkiewicz has had for like 8 years. He hasn't finished drawing in and sent back. And that's like a sketchbook full of you name it, they're in it.
Really?
There's the Jerry Seinfeld Superman book as well.
Right. Well,
which literally has everybody in it, and is proper high... it's Jerry Seinfeld. But yeah. Now, in terms of feeling responsibility... There's, as I say, so there is one page that I own that I think has minor historical importance.
Okay.
And it's from, I've got 2 pages from the Harley Quinn one shot that Yves Gouchette drew it. Like, life of me, I can't remember who wrote it. The one that's got the famous Alex Ross cover where it's Harley Quinn and Joker dancing together.
Yeah.
So that was the introduction of Harley Quinn into the DC universe in continuity. So it was about saying, yes, this character has been created for the animated series. Oh, look, she's become popular. Let's move her in. So I've got the page where she tries on 3 different costumes, the third of which is the original Harley Quinn costume. So that's the first appearance of her in costume in continuity.
Yeah. So
I was very lucky to get it at the time for next.
What's your address again, Al?
She wasn't that popular. But so that's the one page I think. Actually, that's an important page for comic history, in some sort of way. Well, most of the rest of the stuff I've got, I'm like going, I've got it because I really I bought that page because I liked it when I saw it online. But it's also just I just buy the stuff because I like it, and then I would love at some point, to put on a proper show and have a real gallery demonstration of it. Again, that's partially from a pride thing of going, look at this, but also just that way of going, I want to share it out as much as having it for myself. And that's where putting it on things like Comic Art Fans is important to me, because you're then also sharing it out.
Yeah, okay. I keep meaning every time I see a post from there, mostly from you. I think I need to do one. I've got a good scanner, so I really need to get myself a proper scanner and get going on that, I think.
So for people who don't know, what is that?
Yeah, that's a good point.
So comicartfans.com is a website where people can load up any form of original comic art, from that full range that we talked about earlier on, to say, here are the images that they have, right? And that means you can also go onto that and search through it to say, oh, I wonder what, can I find a page or can I find an image by a certain artist of a certain character? And you just go hunting for it to it's a way of having all of that artwork in the one place for everybody to look at. It also gives you loads of links to sales opportunities and all that sort of stuff as well. But I even from a personal perspective, it's been useful for me to keep a record of who's done what. Particularly if you get a lot of sketches from the small press scene where you remember the person's name for the first few weeks after you get
can't
the
make
sketch.
out the signature. Yeah, I've had that before.
Who's that? I remember they were at that show, but no idea who that was.
Yeah, I've got a load like that, man. I keep looking at it thinking, who is this fucking dude again who drew that?
Yeah. So there, it's useful for that as well. But as I say, and there's a link between Comic Art Fans and comics.org as well, which is the big grand comic book database, where basically they're trying to presume to help for future things like artist editions, to say, if you've got a page, you can link it so it links through to comics.org as well. So if you're on comics.org, you can go backwards to say, show me the original art, which is a nice sort of cross tooling. But yeah, so comicartfans.com, if you go into that, and if you just search for Alan Henderson, you'll find me, you'll see all of the things that
You'll see people refer to it as CAF as well, don't you? On my CAF account, you see that quite a lot. Yeah.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, it's quite a database.
So you'd be the idea, Tony, if you scan what you've got and pop it out there and say, look, I've got Master Kokju page, this, that, and okay.
Yeah, it's I do like going around to comics friends' houses. Al won't let me in his house, obviously, but I went to Fingerman's house, and he's got some Corbin pages framed, and I'm like, fuck, he's got some Wally Wood pages framed, and I'm like, Jesus Christ, you know what I mean? Staring at it forever.
But they're framed, aren't they?
Which is a point Al brought up, didn't he? About do we stick it out or do we not?
Yes. Like, for instance, there are many people who love collecting them that probably haven't got the space to frame them. So
I try and rotate mine.
Yeah,
I've got like a load in frames, and I've got the stuff in the office as well at work that I've got on frames.
Yeah. And there's just sometimes you see them sort of heading around with a huge folder, collecting artwork, and sometimes if you get a chance to look at it, you think, my God, you could put on a bloody exhibition. Never mind just hanging it up in your house.
Yeah.
How do you guys personally feel about collecting it, but maybe not displaying it? Collecting it, it's not for the sake of collecting it.
Father, forgive me for I've sinned. I posted earlier. I can't remember whether I just sent it to you, Al, or not, but I was going through a couple of folders last night before the episode, trying to remind me of stuff, and I forgot I had certain pages in there, Excalibur pages, this sort of thing. And there was a tang of, I did feel bad of thinking, I can own these pages. I've never framed them. I haven't looked at them for a couple of years. It's terrible, isn't it? Really? You must be the same, Al, though, mustn't you?
Oh, I'm. Yes. It's the short answer to that. I'm not even going to begin to count how many shadow individual pieces I've got. And yes, I try to rotate them from time to time. But I reckon I've got about, in terms of actual pages, in production pages, high 80s in terms of actual pages. Yeah. So it's just impossible. And again, some of those are because I've gone, right, it's a little, I've got maybe a 5-page story run by somebody. So you want to have that all together, and you don't necessarily want to put it all up. But yeah, it's there's never enough space. But we've all got books on our shelves as well that we've bought and put straight on the shelf. Well,
we haven't read yet.
I've got books on the shelf. Yeah. Where you've gone, I have read.
How dare
that,
you call us out like this?
Where you've got. It's a book that I've read already, but this is the special edition of it. Well, I'm never going to read the special edition of it. I'm going to put that on there. So, but again, that's the thing. So, right, you've got a folder, and the beauty then is that from time to time you do open it up and you go, I'd forgotten about it, and you have that joy again. I know I've got boxes of things, and I do mean things, in the attic of like weird Batman toys from the animated series back even the 90s, where every now and again I'll go up and open a random box and go, wow, and you get that, it's Christmas all over again.
Yeah.
And I think it can be the same about having your own folder of going, I've not looked in this, or I've not looked in this sketchbook for 5 years.
Oh man, I did it yesterday. Last night. I spent last night like that, just standing there going, I forgot I had this. This is marvellous. Yeah, look at this.
That's awesome.
I really enjoy having something that has appeared in a comic and people have enjoyed. I just look at it and sort of just think, isn't it lovely that I've got the original that this man held, that he drew on, or woman drew on, that created this comic that, is now in all the long boxes of people's homes and in hardbacks in shops and stuff like that. I just love the fact that this page from the early 70s is here, for me to love and enjoy and look at and stuff like that. But I suppose that's slightly selfish, isn't it, in a way?
Well, no, I entirely get that. But I also think there's an archaeology thing that comes with it.
Yeah, okay.
Because
preservation thing, yeah.
Well, it's when you actually see this is the original page, and you go, what's written in the margin?
Yeah, on the back. Yeah,
written on the back. What's what's there that has been rubbed out? that's. I've got pages where you can go, oh, the speech bubble was originally meant to be there in blue pencil, but it's now been put over here in ink. Or you've got a character who you can see has been drawn, but then has been rubbed out entirely and never inked, but you can still see the faint pencils, and you're like going, this is the archaeology. This is the the life.
I've got some pages where they've worked out character designs on the back of it and stuff like that as well. Lovely
That's
stuff.
Amazing.
Yeah. Because nobody's ever seen that. I mean, you would think if they, if that artist dies or has died and they do a book on him, then that'd be useful, wouldn't it? It'd be nice little something. Yeah.
Do you think maybe it's a controversial question that people will care about this stuff in so many years down the line? I know it matters to us a lot.
I don't know, man. It's funny, isn't it?
Are the youngsters that digital question? Sorry, Antonio.
Go on, mate. You go.
I was going to say, moves us into part of that digital question of if the artwork is just produced digitally.
Yeah.
Where is that tangible thing? And you don't have the archaeology because people are going, oh, there was 20 layers in producing that digital image, but then I flattened it into one image and saved it down, and that's what was saved and sent on to the printer.
Yeah.
But how do you feel about people doing a lot of work digitally, printing it out, and then inking over the top of it?
It's not my favourite. Well, we had a quick chat about this, didn't we? It's not my favourite way of buying a page. I would probably look for another page first. But if it was from an issue, or because I collect Master of Kung Fu and Captain Britain stuff. If it was a character I was really looking for, then I would more consider it. But I would rather have the original penciled page. So pecking order for me, I prefer the page out of the comic. I prefer the penciled and inked page, and it's nice if they've glued on the word balloons. It's one of those. It's that old.
Very much so.
I would then probably prefer the penciled page. If I didn't have anything else, and then I would probably go for only then would I go for the printed out blue line page with the inked over the top. That's kind of how I feel about it,
Okay.
I'm 100% with you in exactly the same order. And I think the word balloons are a really interesting thing to come back to.
Yeah.
I also think there are a number of artists who are making, again, it's economic decisions around this.
Yeah.
And I know Kyle Baker specifically said it must at least be 10 years back, if not 15, where he would go through a book that he was working on and go, well, these are the pages I'll do digitally, and these are the handful of pages that I will do physically.
That is interesting.
Because you're like going, if it's just a couple of talking heads, and it's just whomever, you kind of go, fine, I'll just do that all digitally. But if it's then suddenly the big splash page with the hero reveal, I'll do that physically because that'll have a resale value.
Yeah.
And I think there's probably more and more of those decisions being made, and I understand why. Fully get it from an economics perspective, but it does lessen the value of it from a non-fiscal perspective.
Yeah.
To say, well, you're making that choice because of that. I'd rather it was just the thing. But then I'm an old school person. I do my own work physically, and I think that has has something about it about saying it carries life. Therefore, as you say, Tony, when you pick up something that is 20, 30, 40 years old and go, this has been, what's this page been through? Whose hands has it been in? And
what Marv Wolfman or Len Wein handled this page, and it turned up at the offices, and you think this is amazing. Yeah. Of course, the big elephant in the room, guys, is money, which Al just mentioned there, and I think that mostly, in broad terms, OA has risen significantly in the last 10 years. And I think what Al's saying there about the digital option, I think that's probably one of the reasons. I think also one of the reasons is the arrival of the, huge lifestyle dealers, who run around with the big rollers, and court them. They'll take them out. They'll take them to, they'll fly them out to Lake Como, and this sort of thing, to the comic convention there. And also, I think probably is the not or possibly reducing, but unchanging money that the artists get paid. So I'm not naming any names. I got a page off an artist 15 years ago at New York, and then I inquired 5 years ago to get another page off him, and it was easily 6 times the amount. And he couldn't deal with me. He had to send me through, I think it was Inky Knuckles, through his art dealer. Wow. And I had to say to him, dude, sorry, mate, I love you to death. And, I really love this page. And he threw in a free commission when I bought the page previously. I said, I can't afford that, mate. It's very kind of you. I'll pop by and buy you a coffee and have a chat, but I couldn't afford it,
Fair play. I mean, wow.
Yeah, and I think it's really gone up,
Yeah, and that's why from time to time we need to play back to what pond are we swimming in? Because you then go, well, fine, if that's what original art for American published books are, then fine, let's just go back down to the small press scene, whether the UK or and say, right, what's your original art? And sometimes you can say maybe you'll find the person before they're famous. I'm very lucky and have a Declan Shalvey piece long before he was signed with
Me
Marvel.
too, man. Me too. Yeah, I've got one here.
And it cost me next to nothing because at that point in time he was just a young lad, And yes, he's gone on at great guns and has had a wonderful career with Marvel. And I could not afford him now, or I would choose not to afford him now. Because I've got a Taskmaster from him that was, I'm going to say £30.
Wow.
Yeah, God knows how much it'd be now. But I'm not big in the game. I'm not as much as you are, but I do look at people and think, because I've never resold a piece of fucking OA. I'll be honest with you, but I do look at people like Gustavo and people like that, and Falpy and some other people, and I think, I'm going to get some OA here from these guys now because it's nice to be in at the ground floor with them. I think that's probably the reason. Yeah.
They could be, the artwork might be worth something.
Yeah, there'll be a respect. And it's nice to have it on my wall. And so I've got a Gustavo or I've got a, Falpy and, these sort of people. I've got that work on my wall. Yeah.
I guess it does. It's kind of a sign of faith, as it were, to sort of say.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I think you've got it. And
yeah, I think it's like, for example, Cliff's work. I've got framed Cliff work. I've got framed Falpy work. The people I work with as well. 4P. Dave. All these people. I've got this work from them framed because I know that it means a lot to me, and that's why I put it on the wall.
I've commissioned people for work, and I've got their original pieces on the wall framed.
Yeah,
I've got like Grant Richards did the cover for.
Yeah,
so I've got that framed. I've got some.
Yeah, I've got a Grant Richards framed on my wall. Yeah, I've got one of those. He did a Herc for me. Yeah,
got two from Chris Imber. I've got Johnny Cannon. He did a picture of Bloodshot.
Yeah, I've got some Johnny Cannon stuff. Yeah.
I've got what's it? Oh God, Andy Bloor. Have you got any of Andy
I've
stuff?
I've got an Andy Bloor.
Yeah. I've got some Andy Bloor stuff. Yeah,
I've got when I did a comic with Demetrius Zack, he just sent me all the artwork. He says, "I don't keep this stuff, Tony. Do you want it?" I went, "Fucking yes, I would." Yeah, I got a folder of all 10 strips from him. It's marvelous. Yeah.
Getting original artwork, especially if you're creative and you commission someone to do your work on your stuff and you get it, it's amazing.
Yeah, I don't mind paying for the page. So it depends on how because I'm just a writer. So whenever I'm working with, sometimes they'll say, "Oh, I'll throw a page in for that as well." When I commission the story or we talk about doing the story. Some people give me the pages because they're my buddies. Some people and I have previously done it where I've paid for pages because I've paid them to draw it, and that was the initial agreement.
You can't go wrong if you discuss this before.
Yeah, I think it's definitely something needs to be talked about.
You need to discuss it beforehand because it can only go wrong if you try and do it on the back end. And someone says, "Well, actually, I can flog these pages on now because like the book's doing quite well." I said, "Well, is the book doing well because your artwork's great, or is it because I'm writing it?" Do you know what I mean? It gets into that kind of weird area. So it's better to that. I know. Well, I can't remember who we discussed show ages ago about contracts. Contracts, not so much in the legalities of who does
an agreement.
It's an agreement and sort of an understanding, like you're doing X, Y, Z for me for this amount of money, and then there's no kind of fucking around, as it were. There's always going to be fucking around, but you know what I mean?
Yeah, with us. But I think we're in a lovely position here where I've certainly been sent out artwork because we've promoted people's comics. I'm so grateful to those people. It's so lovely. Everyone here has sent me a piece of artwork. I absolutely love it.
I've got a page from Mahoneys from Rich Carrington because he said, was at a con and he said, "Thanks for promoting the book, have a pick of one of these pages, and I was like fucking a kid in a sweet shop.
Yeah, it's good. Yeah, and it's nice that
it's just bring up another thing though, because I think I sent a photograph just before we started. When you are the person producing the art, it's probably why Zach sent you the stuff as well. You end up with a pile of it going.
You do.
What am I supposed to do with this, right? And it just become a great commodity to turn around and go, this has value, and this is the thing I always say with a lot of my stuff, where I can go, this has more value to the person who's getting it than it does to me. Therefore, I can put it in as part of a pack, and people think they're getting a freebie, and I'm like, going, well, actually, it was just stuffing, and that's it's probably me undervaluing it in one way, but in another way, I'm like going, there's loads more behind.
I absolutely love it. It's like the lifeblood of comics to me, a page. I genuinely feel that. I mean, you know what I'm like, guys, because I bore you and you out. I send you fucking non-stop pictures of me, and like at New York last year, me and Cliff just walked around taking pictures of original art. Oh, here I am with John Romita Jr. It's like, oh, here's an Eisner page, here's a Gilbert Hernandez page, this sort of thing. It's like just fucking sending them to people, like being just so excited to be in the presence of an original Crumb page or something like that. It's just so good.
Also,
it's so good it makes me weep.
It's something that when I'm looking through original art at a convention, I will sort of mumble some words, but I'm not really a conversationalist.
Mate, we had a couple of moments. Was it the 2000 AD or something?
Yeah, usually I'm just
fucking
going, fucking hell.
Was it Weston's book? Me and you looked through that. Do you remember the three of us looking through that going?
We was looking at the pages he'd done for that year's Christmas edition.
That's right,
2000 AD, and there's a big crown scene. It was like fucking hell, like it was flawless. Looking at the inks, it was like,
but Judge
there's no
Dredd
white
wasn't on
out
it,
here.
so the price wasn't that.
I bought. I got.
But again, it was a good
Chris
page.
Weston in my hallway actually.
Yeah, it's a great page.
Yeah.
Then it's a case of, does it need to have a dread on it?
Yeah.
I
don't think so. I'm personally
no.
Those sort of things are rightfully important to people if like you care about a character, or you want the first appearance of that character in that particular issue possibly. For me personally, it's not too, I just like seeing the art because it becomes just a singular piece. I know all of these pages are meant as a continuous thing. They're meant to be part of a story. But when you buy one page, it becomes a singular piece of artwork, doesn't it? It becomes that, that painting, that fucking Pollock you've got on your wall. You're like, oh, look at that page. It's just one particular thing. Sometimes you will buy it and you have no idea what the story is. You may buy a piece of artwork and then buy the comic afterwards to see what was going on.
Yep.
That's one of the things I love about it. And I tell you one thing I quite like. More and more as sort of as my hair goes grey, which is happening quicker than I'd like.
When knows?
Yeah. But one particular type of comic page artwork, original artwork that I love seeing, and this is, I think, partially because I love the way things are put together. That part of this show is how comics are put together, in every form. I love seeing the old school pages that got the speech bubbles on. They look like collage sometimes because
the bright white bubbles glued on the top of it.
You can see where they've scalpeled bits of artwork off to sort of put it together like a puzzle. I love that. I love seeing all that. Maybe more so than an ultra clean, crisp inked page.
Yeah, me too, man. I love the fact that you got history. Like Al was saying, you got history in front of you.
The archaeology. Because as you
say,
you suddenly go, oh, there was that word balloon was going to say something else, and now they've stuck other words on top of it.
Yeah.
I wonder what it was going to say, or did the letterer just misspell something, and it is. You suddenly go.
Can you recall what you thought when you first saw a page like that? Because when I was younger, I didn't really consider the process of how these pages were put together. So when I saw like a cover and it had like the masthead stuck on it, and I was like, "What?"
Yeah,
it was almost like, how did that thing become this sort of sharper image on a comic page?
Yeah. For me, it was like finding how the magic was done. Do you know what I mean? When you see how a card trick is done, I was like, "What?" It made complete sense, but at the same time, blew my mind and made me appreciate the work that went into it tenfold. I was all of a sudden like, oh shit, you know. I mean, already.
But as artists, because you three are artists, do you learn stuff from looking at those pages then? Have you ever looked at an original art page and thought, oh, right, okay, that's how they do that then, you know?
I tell you what, I've learned that fucking show some respect to the people that used to do it back in the day because they did
fucking hell, yeah.
They did not have Control-Z. They did not have an undo button.
And they probably did it a lot quicker than these fucking digital wombles. Yeah.
Well, I was, so in terms of do we learn anything? I mean, I distinctly remember the first time I'm hearing about, you know, the reason why a blue pencil was used, and you kind of went, geez, right, fine. And then suddenly looking at original pages and looking at the amount of blue pencil that was there, that clearly was just people going, I'm just going to keep drawing and let the ink, you know. And that led me to the realization of the fact that every page, from an old school perspective, was a huge collaborative effort.
Yeah.
So you suddenly said, yes, there is a penciler. Yes, the inker has done something completely, or has taken what the pencils have been there and done something with it. And then the letterer has come in and stuck these word balloons in position and has had to choose the right sizing and all this sort of stuff. And that's been an effort itself. And then you might find that somebody's gone round and written the RBG CYMK numbers around the outside as well. So the colorist has handled that page. And if there have been changes to it, that means the editor has handled that page. So suddenly it is that, you know, you saw that it was a huge collaborative thing to actually produce just the one page.
Yeah, that's a good point, actually. Yeah, it really is, isn't it? And a piece of paper that was a piece of card paper that was handed around a number of people, you know. Probably driven in the back of the cab round to, you know, Joe Sinnott's house or something. You know, it's like this, isn't it? You know.
Yeah.
It's weird because I used to work... I always worked in sort of print publishing. And one of the first jobs I got, they had a guy that used to come and pick up pages and then take them somewhere to get done. And I was like, I wasn't long in the business before that kind of all just gave way to the digital stuff.
Yeah. I really respect those guys who were part of that, you know, when they were literally gluing stuff on pages in Pat Mills's office, you know, an hour before it had to go to the press. Yeah, it's like amazing, isn't it?
My boss, he's like really old school. He's been in it for years, and he used to say stuff about like they had the whole room, an entire room for the fucking camera taking the shots of the plates and stuff. And it's kind of weird now that the desktop publishing, where essentially one person can put together an entire magazine on their fucking computer. It's very interesting.
It's a fascinating, you know. I would say, folks, you know, even if you think. Don't look at it like the original artwork scene is because you can't afford it. You know,
there are pages out there you'll be able to afford. There are some you'll afford. But also, surprisingly,
at the same time, even if you can't afford the bare minimum, and we totally understand, especially times being what they are. When you see like a portfolio or something at a convention, this is a little exhibition. You go up, flick through those pages because you'll learn so much, you'll see so much, and it'll blow your mind. Who knows? You might find something you can afford.
And the artist will talk to you about it. If you say, I love that page, mate, or how did you do that? He'll talk to you, or she'll talk to you about what they've done on the page, you know.
You can always get a commission if you're going to, let's say, like you get to Thought Bubble or something like that, and you've got an artist there that, 9 times out of 10, I'm sure most people would say, oh, yeah, I'll do something for, oh, you want to see the Dragon's Claws? Yeah, I'll draw one of them for you for.
And don't forget, it's only a British and American system where you have to pay for a sketch in a book. In France and Belgium, they'll sketch in your book for free.
Nice.
As part of the deal. Yeah.
Often,
I'd be tempted
which is
to do
another
that.
thing to keep an eye on. I was going to say, the other thing to keep an eye on is the Kickstarter side of things, where often there will be a tier where you can get something at a relatively...
I've just done it. Yeah, just done it with Steve Laffer.
Okay, I'll go in at that too, so that way I get a piece.
That can really offset the campaign, like put a decent chunk of money into getting the campaign funded.
Yeah.
Everyone's a winner there. So we've kind of like spoken a bit. You posed a question to us earlier, Tony, about like grail pieces.
So I think we said cover and interior page, didn't we?
Yes.
And what I'll do is each of us goes, and I've got some on the Slack I can read out as well. Maybe do it that way. Who wants to go for? So guess first, Al?
I'll tell you what, we'll do covers first, go round.
Okay, fine.
Yeah?
Okay. Al, what cover would you choose, Baby Cakes?
So, in terms of things I'm missing, and therefore that was part of my head for this. So I would love to get one of the Sienkiewicz shadow covers from the first 6 from the run that he was involved in. So there you go.
Are they available? Do you know? Have you had a look? Or
I've not seen them for sale, but I know what his normal prices are for painted pieces like that, and let's just say that that's not happening.
It's got to be at least 5 figures, isn't it? I'm going to say.
Yes.
Yeah.
I would much rather meet him at a show and go. There's a biro pen. There's a piece of there's just they're going to just doodle something for 30 seconds, and that will be sufficient for me. Right? That would balance. And as I say, people who used to be brilliant at that, well, Dave Gibbons still is brilliant at that.
Yeah.
And Darwin Cook used to be brilliant at that, where he would just go, there's 4 or 5 lines, you know exactly who the character is. Actually, Tim Sale was also good at it. That he would just go, great, fine, thank you very much. And he would move on to the next person, which is basically just half a step up from a signature.
Yeah. So I've got one framed in front of me like that. Just a little anecdote from Dave Gibbons he used to pop into the comic shop I used to use. And he popped in there one day, and I looked around, and he's chatting to my son, who was, I think, 11 or 12, about his favourite comic characters. Because Dave's like a fucking dude, do you know what I mean? And came away, and then the following week I went again with my son, and he'd left a fully drawn and inked Green Lantern for my son.
Fuck, man. Nice.
Isn't that lovely?
That is lovely.
How cool is that? Yeah.
That's how you get a fan.
Yeah, that's it, isn't it? And the nicest possible thing ever, which is still in his room frame now. Yeah. So good. Who wants to go next? Awesome. Vince?
Oh, cover. It's going to be a cheap one. It's going to be a real. I'm just playing to a certain audience, and it's a classic. I'm kind of cheating because it's several covers at once. X-Men #1, Jim Lee. That almost lithograph like piece.
Okay.
Did. For me,
often homaged.
Yeah, often. Yeah. For me, that is a seminal piece of artwork just in my comics life, and probably a lot of people's lives actually. And I would say that, like, I can't remember. It's been so long. Was the actual words X-Men part of that artwork? Because it was like in stone, wasn't it?
Oh yes.
Was it?
I can't remember. I can't remember that.
I can't remember. It's a shame. I'm thinking. I'm talking about the page I'd like, and I can't remember what it looked the fucking title. But yeah, that's probably a cover for me.
We're going to do the interiors in a section.
Yeah. Leave me to think about that. Yeah. So I've just done Jim Lee.
Have you done yours, Dan?
No.
I've got you to yours.
Is Peter Parker, the Spectacular Spider-Man issue 101, and it's hard. I'm not sure you'd actually see any pencils on it because it's harsh black and white. All the is black and white with Spider-Man flipping over, and all you've got is like the city lights.
Who's that? Is that Byrne?
I think it is. Yeah.
Right. Can't remember now. Yeah. Okay.
It is Byrne. Yeah, John Byrne. Yeah. And it's essentially Spider-Man's silhouette is defined by where the city lights aren't, and he's wearing the classic black costume. Oh, it's fucking great.
Yeah, that's incredible to look at.
Yeah, such a lovely piece. I've not looked up how much that would cost. I imagine a lot.
Yeah,
in the market.
I got a very lesser Byrne page for $180. No, that's a lie. That's a lie. That's what I told the missus. It was a bit more than that, but the
you know she listens every week, Tony.
Yeah, it's a big listener. Yeah. Mine's Master of Kung Fu 106. It's a Jean Day cover. Shang-Chi versus Carlton Velcro. Yes, that was his name.
Nice.
And I couldn't find it online. A similar cover is going to cost you about 21 grand from that run. But it means a lot to me, that cover, because it was one that I copied as a kid. So it's to sort of redraw it. And Jean Day, if anyone hasn't seen the Jean Day Master of Kung Fu stuff, which is, he didn't do that much because he died sadly very early. That stuff is fucking next level. It really is good. Just incredible stuff. So that would be my one. Yep.
I'm just going to step away from my mic just for a moment to go straight to my bookshelf to see if I can find the fucking the pages I'm looking at. Carry on.
Okay, right. Okay.
So I'll fill because the interior stuff. I think it's an interesting thing about what direction to go in, because you're talking about, Tony, something that meant something to you as a kid there. And there is, I would love to have a Leo Baxendale piece.
Yeah, it's a good shout.
Or a Dudley
I bet they were massive as well. I bet they're on massive pages.
And I'm sure most of them are probably just destroyed because that's just the way it goes. Or I say similarly, Dudley D. Watkins from a New Willie or the Bruins type thing.
Yeah.
The other two that really stuck with me in terms of interior pieces I would love to have. One's from George Pratt from the Enemy Ace War Riddle.
Oh yeah, they're cheap. That's fine. Get a couple.
There are pages that are available from that online that are the talking head pieces.
Yeah,
where they are $8 to $10 each, and you're like, okay.
I actually would have put them as higher, but yeah, I know. What you mean. He's kind of a fine art guy as well, isn't he?
Yeah, I presume the pieces that featured the Fokkers would have been
the battlefield shot. Fucking hell,
$20,000. That's and again, but that is proper oil painting artwork that's out there. And I presume again the size of them are huge. But I've been lucky enough to get a very small sketch by Josh Pratt, so I'm going to put that to one side. And then the thing that I don't have that I would love to have is a Kojima. So a page from Lone Wolf and Cub, where picking a page is actually quite difficult. So a number of battle pages in that would be really good as well. But there's some really quiet pages of just him walking with the baby cart. And I think that would probably be a better page to have. A
nice sort of widescreen image.
If you want something to put up on the wall that kind of goes, this is the summary of the story. This is a samurai pushing his son in a baby cart around. You don't necessarily need the speed lines and the flashing swords and all this sort of stuff. But so that was sort of where I was thinking about that. Yeah.
That sounds like a storyline ripped off The Mandalorian. That's a bit naughty.
the Mandaborian. Right. Oh, dear. I'll go through some of the listeners' ones. So Pete Watson, he's mentioned a couple actually. He's done the famous One Punch from Justice League.
Oh yes, nice.
He said that's a great page. He's also done a Don Heck page that features the Reverse Flash, Professor Zoom, and Batgirl. Robert Hardingham has done, I think that's a Gary Leach page from let's call it Marvel Man back then. Sarah Harris has done a Bill Senkovich page from Electro Assassin. Yeah. Strotty, I was chatting to earlier, he's done a G.I. Joe page, which looks great. I think that's a Zek page. I think it's a Zek cover as well. From the looks of it.
Great to see Matt on Friday. We'll
it's good. It's a drink and draw. Yeah. Gary Watson has done I think it's Rick Leonardi. He's got a Spider-Man 2099 cover material art. Mr. Curry, who run our drink and draw, he's done a Kirby New Gods page. Well, can't go better than that, can you? Cole Henley has done an Akira page, the famous one with the big, the explosion, the dome kind of thing going on. Tom Murphy's done, I think that's Eddie Campbell, he didn't name it, but it looks like it is an Eddie Campbell for a story from that one. I think, is that it? Simon Russell's done Tom Sutton. Fucking hell, man, look at that page. Look at the beauty of that page. Fucking hell. If you're on the Slack, you can go look at it.
I'll have to go in and take a look at that.
Yeah. Jason Garrett's done the Hergé Tintin page with the spaceship on the moon.
Nice.
It's a beautiful page. And Eamon Clark's just walloped everyone and done the Barry Windsor Smith on a pile of bodies black and white image, which I know he talked about a couple of episodes ago on Mega City Book Club, and we've talked about it as well. But what a page!
Just for clarification, it's Conan on a pile of bodies.
What did I say?
You said Barry Windsor Smith.
Oh, sorry, it's Conan. Yeah, so Barry Windsor Smith's not on a pile of bodies. No. He just does that
just to stop the litigation. That was all.
Yeah. Well, mind you, if it is Barry, he's looking well. I've got to tell you. But I get you. Yeah, cool. Yeah. So who's next? You've done interior, have you, Al? Yeah. Dan,
I've yet to do mine. Yeah, mine is. I mentioned this before we started the call, but there's when we were looking back on the Mike Zeck artwork for Punisher: Circle of Blood. There's a couple of pages where the Punisher's in Rikers Island, and he's going through, and he basically just demolishes like 12 dudes that come up against him, and the Zeck pencils on that page. A fucking the whole sequence. There's about 3 or 4 pages.
That look down on the prison, as he's walking through. It's great.
It's lovely. The one page you've got is where he's kind of walking through, and all the thugs are coming out of the cells, and he's kind of like the Punisher's like in portrait looking back, and it's just great. Everything about that page is. I remember seeing it as a kid and falling in love with it, and when I saw the pencils on it, even more so. I was just, I'd love it. Yeah.
Shall I do mine before Vince comes back? So mine's up
now.
Mine.
Carry on.
Oh no, babes. I think it's Fantastic 451, page 1. This Man, This Monster with the thing standing in the rain. It's one of my favourite issues. It means a lot to me. Plus, it is such a great page. Him standing in the rain. This says so much for a single image. So that'd be mine. Yeah, V.
Nice. My one, I went to get the Aliens vs Predator book off the shelves. I've mentioned his art many times. Chris Warner of Dark Horse. And I know he picked up a lot of the pages towards the end of the book. And they were pages that when I discovered this book and when I was reading it, I just looked at and probably copied things and looked at the way he drew predators. There's page 124 when there's an enormous stampede of like alien they're sort of like cow rhinos. That's sort of phenomenal. But I think it's towards the end when it's when you got a predator versus the alien queen, and just like the action panels. There's like 2 pages around there, around 150, 151. Any one of them would be glorious. And what makes me think even more, I drool at thinking about what the original artwork looks like. It's because we see these books, and certainly when we've bought the comics on the newsprint, they've had that charm, and like we've bought the, and you get like the trades and stuff, and sometimes you look back at it now and the colour looks quite flat. It could be quite flat. I mean, I like the charm of it now, but they're fairly sort of light blues, dark blues. There's not much shading and stuff. Works perfectly for the comic because it doesn't, the book because it doesn't
tells a story. That's what it does. Yeah.
But when you see the original artwork, which is just black and white inks, it levels up. It's almost like I look at it and just think, I wish I could see this as an artist edition. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
That sort of big black and white version. Because when I've seen on some sort of like comic auction thing, when I've looked for Chris Warner artwork, I can see like, because he did like Alien vs Predator. There was War back in the day. Do you remember the Dark Horse series War?
I think he's doable for OA, man.
Yeah. Well,
I think you do it. I think you get it. I think
one of the pages for War. Some of the pages are going for like 15 grand.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Fucking hell.
Yeah,
okay. Maybe don't do the Predator pages.
But currently, when I was just looking at his artwork and going around the market at the moment, is some of the Dark Horse stuff that he did for like Barbed Wire or X.
Yeah.
And these are a couple of $100. Do you know what I mean?
It says doable. That. Yeah. I think the thing is, people make the mistake when people will listen to this and think, "Oh, fucking, I can't get him in that game." But you can find deals. I found a Val Mayrick commission that was $40 the other day. I think it is. There is stuff if you look for it. If you're not obsessed with the next hot artist, then I think you will find stuff online. Yeah, it's available.
I still say as well, if you're at shows, particularly if there's some of the dealers there that are doing proper piles of art, there are deals to be struck with them about saying get multiple pieces. Because they don't want to cart it all back home again. They're there to get rid. They want their turn. Tony, you're going to Baltimore later in the year. I highly recommend going to see Anthony Snyder's tape.
Oh, you've mentioned him. Yeah. I must have a look.
As I say, he did me a solid when I was in Baltimore that year, where I was struggling to pick between a couple of pieces, and he went, "Well, what if we just did this for them all?" And you went, "All right, then, fine, thank you very much."
Yeah.
And that's kind of the way that have an honest conversation with these people. Say, I'm looking for something like this for this sort of value, and they'll go, "Well, have you thought about this? You thought about that?" Or they'll just say, "Let's see what we can do."
One of the things that plays into my mind as well when I'm buying, especially at overseas conventions, is transporting it. Think about that. So I always go over to, there's usually a hot flip stall, and if you walk over there with an original page in your hand, try not to bend it, and all this sort of thing. Try not to, somebody, as you walk over there, go, "Oh, you'll need one of these, mate," and they know it off by heart what size you want. And then make sure you got a way of transporting it home. There's nothing worse trying to send stuff from the States. I tried it. Me and Falpy tried to send stuff home. Too expensive. It's silly money if you try and sell it from the convention centre. So you do need to think about transporting it. And also, don't be. And the one thing we haven't talked about is prints. Don't be afraid just to get a print signed.
Yeah.
If you're just in it because you love the artwork and you love, supporting the creator and stuff like that. I've got some of my favourite artwork that I've got from. I've got a Nexus page, a Nexus print framed by Steve Rude. I just love that. But it was a lovely option. I wanted to buy something off him. I was in another country and on holiday. I didn't want to spend like amazing amounts of money.
Yeah,
print. It's just
signed print. That's just good. Yeah,
yeah. I think so. And they look lovely in a frame as well.
Agreed. Yeah.
So next time you're at a convention, and you see a dealer store, or if you see an artist with some original artwork, have a look through. Spark up a conversation with them. You never know. You might walk away with an absolute amazing piece of artwork.
And when you go to them, how much is this? And they go, yeah, that's just $7,000. You go, okay, it looks really nice. Thanks, mate. Bye.
Yeah. But no matter what you do, whether it's $5 or $5,000, you never forget your first. I'm talking about artwork.
I thought Tony said it was a bacon sandwich. Anyway. There's a real callback to the beginning of the previous. Anyway.
Yeah.
Faking. Man, I ain't heard that word in a long time.
I think I just made that up. I thought I made that one up. Is that a thing? Is it? Faking?
Faking?
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, you are the original hipster, but
that is true. Yeah, as everyone says that about me.
Yeah. Yeah. But what everyone will probably say was, I've learned so much over the last hour. Well, we hope you have.
Yeah, go contact the small press artist you like and buy some pages off him, because they'll be cheap, or off her. Yeah. They'll be cheap. And
if you just want to see what's about, just have a Google for something, just like original artwork. If nothing else, you'll just look at some wonderful original artwork pages, even if they're just small thumbnails from a dealer. I've had fun looking through that stuff. It's great. Amazing.
If you do want to commission an original art, if you give the artist a heads up before you get to the con, that's always another shout, as opposed to turn up on the day and say, I want this. Do you know what I mean? Would you think that's a good way of doing it? So if you say Gustavo Vargas,
doing them is nice.
Yeah. Sometimes you get a better drawing as well, I'd say, because they're not distracted and you can rely on it being there.
I can honestly say that's exactly the right case, Tony. I think when I've had time to, and then someone turns up to the table and giving their money, and they've walked away with a piece of artwork that I've been quite pleased with.
One of the first ones I did a show when we did the first London Super Comic Con. I was saying that I'm doing open commission. You did some commissions, Vince, didn't you? As Predators.
Yeah.
And I did a girl who's some semi-famous cosplayer, and she wanted to drew her, and she wanted her as Wonder Woman, and I was like, okay, and did that. And she came and got it.
It took ages doing that in-person drawing, didn't you? You disappeared for ages with her.
Well, you got to take all the clothes off to get it right. You know what I mean? It's
why did you take your clothes off?
Well, that's how I draw.
Hold on. Where'd you keep your? No, I'm not asking where you keep your pencils. Anyway,
I use my as a
paintbrush. The towel, just hang a towel on it. We've all done it. Admit it. We've all done it.
We're better than this. Come on, no, we're not.
But you lovely people out there are better than that. And we hope you enjoyed that chat. And Al, thanks so much for lending a true, knowledgeable voice of reason to the show. Well, it was technical. But
I mean, you guys know so much more than this than I do. I'm real fucking.
Yeah, it's a lovely thing to look through. If you're not even if you're not buying anything, just to go through these, you get an idea of who's got how people work. A load of these pages, you can look at them online. It's great to look at. Yeah.
I think, like you said, Vince, I would like the page that I get that someone who didn't know anything about comic stuff would come and look at the page and think that's amazing. Look at the workmanship, craftsmanship, and work on that, and it can stand on its own.
Yeah. It's fascinating. And another fascinating episode in the bag. But do we have any shout-outs this week, gents?
I have, yes. So thanks to Rob Hardingham for the extremely kind gift of a spinner rack. I now have a spinner rack in my office.
Is that a bucket list item fulfilled?
Yeah, that's. I think so.
Isn't it? It really is. And I'm being serious. It is, isn't it?
I sit there and stare at it. I do literally sit there and stare.
What about the spinner rack?
Someone
else say it. Come on,
I put it in the spinner rack.
No, be careful, Tony. What you've tried making love to it?
Don't say that. Don't dirty it.
Oh, sorry.
Come on,
you've tried fucking your spinner rack.
More of that in a minute, by the way. Superb. It was a superb drink and draw on Friday. Thanks to everyone who turned up. Really nice one. I even told that joke as well. And a big shout out to Drew Hurd, who drew me as part man, part lion. There you go.
So we just drew a picture of you then.
What we're doing a shout out to the people who did the drawings, those that did the comic strips of us.
Oh God, I was about to say that. That's my next one.
Go on then.
Fucking made me laugh. No, go on. So it's thanks to Andrew Hempel, Dave Hingley, and Kieran Squires and Aaron who organised it. Of people, what we've seen so far, they've done I think it was to sort of celebrate the 400th, wasn't it?
Yes.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah. It was making me laugh. Speaking of Andrew Hempel, as well. Hull Comic Con is on the 15th of July at the Prince's Quay Shopping Centre. Andrew Hempel is offering free tables to small press people at that convention.
Hey, there you go.
So he's flying the flag for small press. I know Andrew's a listener and he's a good geezer to go for a pint with because I did in Brillington. If you contact him at Skaro Media, Skaro, Skaro Media at hotmail.com, you can inquire about getting a table at it. And it's an event, of course, that does have, someone from Doctor Who, someone from Star Wars, this sort of thing at it. But he's also trying to get small press comics in there. And at Brillington, there was a long row of us, so we had a blast chatting and selling comics and talking to the public. And a lot of people are turning up who wouldn't normally see actual comics at a comic convention. Do you know what I mean? It's that sort of cosplay event. But he's doing the right thing there, man. I'll make him right around it. And he's a good egg as well. And he was on, I think as I met him, he was on the radio promoting it.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, so it was good. Yeah, so go and contact Andrew. There you go.
Nice. Damn.
Come on.
I've got, what I'm going to say, Lawless Comic Con. The Doubletree by Hilton, Bristol. It's on the 28th and 29th of May. Absolutely enormous guest list if you're interested in 2000 AD and British comics in general. It's well worth checking out. Warwick Fraser Coombs is going to be there.
Yeah.
It's going to be awesome.
He's been in the prog now, so he's a proper star now, isn't he?
Ah, there you go. I've got a shout for a Kickstarter for Mahoneys. There's a lot of good Kickstarters running at the moment. Mahoneys 6, the series finale, the final issue of the series about a bar of supervillains and the epic finale of the standalone storyline. I'm not sure if that's the end of that or not, or if it goes on.
I sort of saw it as a bit of a mini-series, but I guess the threads can be spun out elsewhere, can't they?
Yeah. There we go. So, yes, that's my shout-outs for this week.
Cool. Lovely.
Also, a shout-out to everyone who came along to the drink and draw. Yeah, it was a lot of fun. I did come in a bit later.
It was a chuckle. It was good. And thanks to Tom for sorting it out.
Yeah.
As
always,
the fourth Beatle. I know. I know there was 4 Beatles. But...
You were there, Al, weren't you? You come along.
I was there. Yeah.
It's good. It's a good one.
I remember some of the things we weren't allowed to talk about afterwards. But
So keep your eyes. Whenever you listen to this, keep your eyes and ears open and on social media or the Slack
for the next one.
Yeah. You said what's the most outrageous comic you can think of, and I was like, I'm not saying anything. Tony said that. What's the most for the idea of pitch for the most outrageous comic? And I was like, not get involved in this.
No. No.
I know the baseline of this fucking group. This is going to go nowhere.
And we're not cancelled. Look, we've just made it to 400 episodes. We don't want to get cancelled now. All right?
We're going to get cancelled from humanity.
It was when Tony was asked what television program he wanted to appear on, and Topless Darts was the answer. I think it was a confusing thing for me.
Prehistoric Topless Darts. They used to be on live TV. Very good. Yeah. The News Bunny was always a highlight.
How is it prehistoric?
Well, they dress as cavemen.
Mm-hmm.
Cave people.
I mean, that's arguable.
That explains it.
I don't think it's historically accurate, but that's.
Well,
I don't think they had darts back then.
They get birds from Croydon.
Oh, that's the issue.
Yeah, so they get birds from Croydon, so that's the Neanderthal pot.
Croydon Box Park.
Bringing it back, can I give a quick shout out?
Yes, you can.
Shout out to John Price, who basically, if you've ran a Kickstarter as a UK artist or creator over the last few years, there's a very, very high chance that John has backed you and therefore has put some money in your back pocket.
Oh, cool.
You'll know him on Twitter as either Mr. Happy Go Lucky or at Caladorm. And all I'll say is he asks for some of the most interesting commissions. That sounds wrong. He asks for commissions that I've found really amusing to work on, in that he's asked me in the past to basically take the Penned Guin and mash them up with other British comic strips, like the Perishers or
cool.
It's awesome.
Things like that. So as a lot of you will know John, but not necessarily know him. But he's a really nice guy, and as I say, sometimes I think we have to remember that the reader is part of our construct, and they deserve as much
main part.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Oh, thanks.
Cool.
A wonderful shout out. And do you know what? As a reward, it's our part of the recommendation section of the show.
Yeah.
And Alan, we're going to get you to talk again. What would you like to recommend to our lovely listeners this week?
Okay, so I'm actually going to recommend an artist, Davit Dunlop. So it's David with a T. He's Irish. I presume that's how he spells David. Anyway, again, a really nice guy that I met at a convention end of last year. He was tabling directly behind me, and we got chatting and stuff. And he's put out. He's one of these people who's been into comics for a long time, and it's taken him a while to become a creator, and just bite the bullet and get on with it, if you like. And therefore, he's still finding his feet in terms of what he's doing. But he's put out a number of really interesting little books, and there's two of them I'd like to give a shout out to. One is called Poor Little Ghosts. Which is essentially a story that starts from the concept of saying, why is it that we only ever hear about ghosts that live in mansions? Why don't we ever hear about the ghosts that were actually living in the council house?
Right.
And it's this whole thing about saying, what end up happening to ghosts that are penniless and can't afford to be ghosts, and it's just a really nice take about it. And there's an image in this book that, and it's not a spoiler at all, but where he's basically got a beggar sitting in the street holding a piece of card saying, please give me £1 for my lunch type thing, and sitting next to him is the ghost, the full sheet with the two eyes cut out, just holding the Ouija board, looking like he's holding the card in the same way that you would expect a beggar to hold a card. And I just thought it was a really lovely image. It's a really lovely book about just setting that out, that perspective about saying, from a social perspective, how do why is it we only ever put memories into people who lived in mansions? So that's one of his books. His other book that's also available on his Etsy account is it's called The Snail, which is basically the journey that a snail takes traveling through, and the fact that it's from point A to point B, and it's the time that it's moving at is obviously much slower and much more controlled than all the things that are happening around it, and the way that the snail just experiences life at a different pace. And again, it's a really simple little storyline, and the artwork that he's done for the snail is very clearly. He's got inspiration from Dave McKean in that he uses lots of different things in here about photographs of shells, but then using Tipex to draw the actual snail in it. And if you go into these Etsy shops as well, they've got individual ones where essentially what he does on the cover is use a little bit of Pritt stick and some glitter. So it's obviously the snail's trail across it, so they're all individual in that sense. And so he's on his actual table. He was at Thought Bubble last year as well, and on his table he's got a number of other little things that he does, little arty things, little zany things that are just really nice little different takes. And he's the sort of person that you would miss in a big show, but I highly recommend looking him out. So you'll find him on Twitter as well as David T Dunlop.
Good stuff, man. And he did a little zine of naked ladies as well, which I might buy.
I was going to say, it's one of the books I've not looked at of his, but
whatever. Nobody believes you. Nobody believes you.
Straight to. All I'm saying is I can't comment on the quality to that. That's
I've only seen one naked lady. That's all I need in my life. It's not true. Okay. Cool.
Not true, Mum.
I've got two. Shall I go next?
Go for it.
Yeah. My first one is called The Ginormous Kokju, which is, if you read Jerry
Dan laughed, so you need to...
I did.
Do you want to spell that out, Tony?
Ginormous, it's Kokju. I don't know what it means. If you go to Jerry Duggan's Substack, which I subscribe to, he says apparently he couldn't get the name King Dong past the editorial, so you can understand what this book's going to be about. It's written by Jerry Duggan, as I said. Artist Scott Koblish. Hi Scott. Scott followed us today on Twitter. There you go.
Hello.
Colorist Hi-Fi. Letters by Joe Sabino. There's a cover by Scott Koblish and a cover by Gary Brown as well. Now, this is basically a wild comedy about a giant monster who turns up in San Francisco Bay, as they always do, don't they? It's always like Tokyo Bay or something like that, isn't it? And he goes about destroying things, shitting on things, fucking things, and literally fucking up the city. It has all the hallmarks of starting like we used to see on a Godzilla movie, but it goes well beyond that in style and storytelling. It's a pastiche and a piss take, but it also satirizes other things in the world. I actually can't think of a monster comic more suited to us. And I would definitely recommend all of us present on this call read it. Really sort of bombastic, no messing about. Everything is there. By page 6, so the monster in question, the kaiju in question, is this massive sort of purple winged creature who shits on he keeps shitting. And the poop is green and it kind of looks toxic, radioactive. And it also contains, as you know, a lot of giant monsters' poo does, other little monsters that go on and start eating the population and getting in fights and stuff like that. The cover gives away, which I think is something that doesn't happen until further into the story, gives away the fact there's a giant mech that turns up to fight this creature as well. Now, you don't see that mech in this first issue. I think that's heralding what happens further along in the story. But you do see what I think is probably going to be the pilot of the giant mech, who's on the piss and is upset with everyone and cynical and can't be bothered because he's drunk and he's in a bar. Doesn't want to get involved. Now, there's a fuck to death, which is a big splash page of a monster having sex with a building, which is good, and you get a full monster dong in that one. Don't forget this is an Image comic. There's a sort of admiral who's looking at what's happening from his ship with binoculars, and he says, "If we don't do our jobs, there are going to be a lot more dick smeared people." I thought that was quite a good little phrase. Duggan slips in sort of sarcastic little digs into it. There's a man who's about to be eaten, and he pleads to the monster, "Oh, don't eat me! I've got a Tesla." I thought it was great, and then gets eaten. And then there's a line where the monster's invading, and all the police and army are, tanks are arriving to, and somebody says, "Luckily, we overspent on our police and military budget in the 21st century." No, we didn't, did we? Let's see, if there's a monster invades, we're in trouble, aren't we? There's somebody who says the wrath of the Kokju is righteous. The bit where he bangs an office block, honestly, you wouldn't. I'm reading this book, and I think, oh, right, monster invasion. Hang on, what's happening here? Yeah. With this big, massive, weird, purple, pink scaled wiener. Yeah, there you
Classic.
go. And someone, the Admiral
Seen
shouts.
one, you've seen them all.
Yeah, the Admiral shouts out at that point, "Yeah, I reckon it's mating season." That's what he says. So it's really good. Scott Koblish, outstanding in this. It's just, if you just want a fun comic, Jerry Duggan's a funny dude as well. He writes some great stuff. Just get this. I got it on Comixology, but you'll get it in the shops. I think it might have been sold out the first issue, but it's certainly doing well. It's certainly being talked about. But I wrote some notes on it this morning, as I want to go into my cafe and write it in the morning. And then I thought, I never do this, but I thought I'm going to have a look to see if this has got any heat about it. I thought it was really good. I thought it'd be nice to see if this is getting some press, So I went and had a look, Googled it, and every single review site may as well be a fucking cut and paste.
Really?
And ridiculous. Like, it mentions the same thing in the first line, the same thing in the second line. I guarantee if you go and Google for this, you will see the first line is Koblish and Duggan previously worked on Despicable Deadpool. I'm gonna say I'll bet I'm true here when I say it, that's what it says in the press release.
Yeah, without a doubt. It's no doubt pretty much copy pasted from the press release. Boom, boom.
But they're missing out some of the vital bits of this, the satire about modern society that's coming through this book, because they're just cut and pasting, scanning the book and then writing this ridiculous review.
If you're doing the same thing that 10 other sites are doing, why would anyone come to your site?
Agreed, man. Who knows? Yeah.
I'm not saying
but
that
it's the lazy journalism of, if somebody's producing a press release, you don't have to write anything. You can just cut and paste it.
Yeah.
That's why I
was
saying.
To be fair, as a small press person, you should be doing your own press releases so that you can get onto those sites with that cut and paste. But yeah, it's disappointing.
I just wonder how many people actually give a shit about those when you see the press release come out. Because, like, if I don't know.
I mean, how many readers read more than one site?
Yeah, maybe. Yeah. I mean, me and Dan are going to talk about a comic in a minute that came through to the Awesome Comics pod, and I read the comic first. I always make a point of reading the comic first, making a couple of notes, what I think is about, the bits I liked, stuff like that. And then I'll go and read the press release because usually I only read it to say, so I can work out who the company is, who drew it, what the origins of the story were. Is it going to be a continuing series? Nothing to do with the contents of the comic. That's what I'm looking for, is the little factual bits, really. If we're going to recommend something, it's got to mean something to us as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, anyway, get this, fucking brilliant. The Ginormous, I don't want to say Ginormous Kokju. I don't know how you say it. That's Kokju. So yeah, get that. It's a cracker. I'm on it. Really good. You guys got to fucking read this because you'll like it. I tell you.
Yeah. It sounds like my
yeah.
Nice.
Good.
Dan,
Who's
what
next?
have you got?
I've got three. So, one I'm going to go in with you, T.
You beast.
Yeah.
Do you want to do the one with me last? Then we'll go last.
Yeah. I read Local Man 2 after
That's a cracker.
Man 1. Absolutely loved that. I was like, I really wish I'd had this in a trade so I can just blast all the way through them. I want the experience of just being able to read this story all the way through. So when I got to the end of this, I was like, fucking hell, got to wait again for the next issue. It does exactly what we did in the last one, where you get the 2/3 of the book is like the current day storyline of what's the guy's name? The character Jack. Something Jack. Superhero name.
Crossjack, is it?
Crossjack, yes.
Yeah.
And then it flips back to the back of the book where it's set like in a 90s Image comic, and you're telling the kind of the glory days of when he was actually Crossjack and jumping around with the spandex suit on. It's a lovely little touch, and the kind of the various parody covers they have in the back are an absolute joy. Being very late to the market for my second book, I picked up volume 1 of the all new Ghost Rider, written by drawn by Trad Moore and written by Felipe Smith, and I fucking loved that. I was really enjoying it. Again, it's so small what you get in these bloody trades. It's I think there's 4 issues in this, and he goes up against Mr. Hyde, which I think is he one of the kind of, I remember reading Ghost Rider years ago, and Hyde came up against Ghost Rider a couple of times. They seem so ill fitted together.
Yeah, I'd put Hyde as a Spider-Man villain or like that, really. Yeah.
But he's kind of, in this series, up against Ghost Rider, where Hyde kind of like, New York has got so many kind of criminals, and the Kingpin, he decided to move his sort of drug business out to LA in the sort of, in the hood, as it were. And that's where the story's set. You can tell Tradmore obviously taking time with the locale, because it looks like exactly where it's set.
Cool. I think I have read this. I just haven't looked at it for a while. Yeah.
Tradmore's stuff, love it. It ties into. I picked up that Marvel Midnight Suns game because it went on sale, and I've been fucking loving it. I've really enjoyed it. It's
right, cool.
I wish the comics were written like that. I would be all over that fucking comic. It's a lot of fun. So if you like video games, go check out that.
Yeah, Midnight Suns is like a high school drama. The recent series, don't bother with it.
In this one, kind of the story, Lilith kind of like breaks out, and like these kind of mystical heroes have to team up with kind of some of the more modern day Avengers, and there's a bit of a culture clash.
Right.
But it's like when some of the characters say stuff that made me laugh, and I was like, I didn't expect myself to be laughing at this, but it's because I got such a love for some of the characters that
I literally just picking up an issue here. You can hear the rustle of the polythene that I've kept it in. Night Stalkers number 1 that we picked up from a Comic Mart. Collector's item issue, of course it is.
Yeah.
But part of that was Rise of the Midnight Suns, and one of the reasons I got this issue and why I liked it is because it was Marvel like properly. Yeah, it was still like superheroes and over the top kind of like nonsense, but it was Marvel doing horror and demons and darkness, and you got like it says in each issue here, this was in the Rise of the Midnight Suns story. I wonder if you can get that in trade. I'd love to read that actually.
Get on the app, mate. It's on the app.
That was Ghost Rider, It was also Spirits of Vengeance #1, Morbius #1, Darkhold #1.
Yeah, Darkhold. Yeah, I got
Night
that, yeah.
Stalkers #1, and Ghost Rider 31. So 2 Ghost Rider issues sort of like bookended this story. And now it's like bloody high school drama.
One of the kids goes to a high school.
In the game, fucking Michael J. White voices Blade.
It's
right.
It's absolutely perfect.
It's absolutely spot on. Like, I was like, I know that voice. So it's fuck me, it's Michael J. White.
He is the nicest fucking dude in the world. I watched a couple of interviews with him recently because him and Atkins are mates, aren't they? Big mates. And I've watched a couple of interviews, and they're funny together. Funny as fuck they are.
Dan, did you also see that the Blade costume? Someone actually made that, and there's pictures of him in it.
Really?
Oh, are
as Blade, which is just fucking awesome.
Speaking of which, how much is Scott Adkins living the high life now after being in?
He's doing well.
Oh man,
dude! I love John Wick, but when I saw him, I chuckled and then said to Joe afterwards, "I've spoken to him."
Yeah, he's our mate.
I say, if you're looking for a good Michael J. White martial art film, Blood and Bone.
Blood and Bone.
Oh man, what a fucking movie! That scene in the toilet in the prison. Fucking hell.
So good, so good. Anyway, where were we? You got one more that you're going to double team.
Oh yeah, well you go first, Ov. You have yours.
Okay. I'll jump in with one I picked up this week. I kind of got 2. I'm just and I'll do my minor shout out. It's kind of more of a shout out rather than a recommendation. Really, my second one, but my first one is from the. Oh, hang on, I just got to make sure I get the creative team up. Script by John Allison. Art by Max
I know
Sarin.
what this is going to be.
Max Sarin. Colours by Sammy Boras and letters by Jim Campbell. So right there are
two guests who've been on the show.
Yeah, two people hardworking people from the small press scene, and this.
I knew you'd read this as soon as I saw it. I thought, right, you're definitely going to read this.
The Great British Bump Off. This is from Dark Horse Comics. Yeah, but there are. I knew as soon as I picked it. I thought, what's Tony going to say about the cover? And this is it's exactly what you imagine it is. This is an Agatha Christie style. It's basically a murder mystery set. Kind of. The shorthand is if someone got murdered in the Great British Bake Off. It's an English.
You just read this because you appeared on Bake Off a couple of weeks back.
Yeah. Oh, good point. Yeah.
Don't make
he don't like that.
Don't make me mute you, you fuck. I don't care if you're a guest. I'll kick you right off this fucking Zoom call into space.
Didn't touch a nerve. That's fine.
I'm sorry, Al. I'm sorry, Al. I'm just bitter that they haven't paid me for the appearance. Anyway, so this is basically it's the creative team from Giant Days. So I know there's a lot of people like Max Sarin was the artist for Giant Days, and
Campbell lettered Giant Days, wasn't he?
Yeah. And I don't know whether Sammy Boras coloured any of the later ones, but certainly one absolutely amazing job she's done colouring this. Basically, it is about a sort of amateur baker called Shauna Wickle, and she joins this sort of British baking competition that's on telly. And her goal is to delight the judges, charm the nation, and make a few friends along the way. But when a fellow contestant is poisoned, it falls to her to apprehend the culprit while avoiding premature elimination from the UK bakery tent and being the poisoner's next victim. Bum, 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 and all that nonsense. I love a good murder mystery, me. I love that sort of... I love the sort of Agatha Christie style stuff, and the Miss Marples or the Jessica Fletchers, all of that. And it's just one of those sort of setups that you think, oh, of course, that's just a great idea. Putting that sort of murder mystery in a baking competition, For me, it starts off really strong. The writing feels very British. I know it's sort of set in England, but sometimes like you get some.
It's massive in the States, that program, isn't it?
Yeah,
they love it over there. The British version, I mean.
Yeah. And it's definitely it keeps a consistent tone. I think Sarin is an absolutely phenomenal talent. If you like that sort of Disney, I think they worked for Disney Animation. I think for a bit before moving into comics, and maybe they're still doing a bit of both. They have such a brilliant take on, well, character design. One of the important things about comic books that we always say is you've got to be able to tell people from each other, haven't you? When there's a cast of characters. And certainly there are a bunch of different contestants. You know exactly who everyone is, even the presenter and stuff. You can tell there's that satire, there's the caricaturization of what the Bake Off is. But it's also colourful, it's bright, it's sort of bubbly. It's less, when it's a murder mystery, it's less sort of like shocking blood and gore and more, you know, sit down with a cup of tea. And it's got that sort of Agatha Christie, Miss Marple. Was it like
I was going to say Miss Marple, yeah.
It's more that kind of vibe. There's this, the first page immediately has the sort of lineup of guests. And you got, for instance, there's Duncan, who's the dental technician. The main Shauna is a student. You got Will, who's a database programmer. There's Sunil, who's a yoga instructor. Trevor's who's a bus driver. Do you know what I mean? There's a wide sort of Titus, street musician. If Tony Esmond was a hipster, he would be Titus.
Titus Esmond. Titus Esmond.
Oh, that's a strong name. That's a strong name.
It is, yeah.
So immediately you have this cast of characters, and it's only just getting started. The one thing I will say, the delivery of it, the visual delivery of it, for me was stronger in the first issue than the script. That's not to say that there's nothing against the script whatsoever. It just felt like it was just kind of getting going. I think I'm going to keep getting this in issues.
Okay.
I think I'm going to keep getting it in issues just because I like this creative team. But I will say it'll probably work really nicely as a collection. Do you know what I mean? That sit down, have a cup of coffee, and a slice of cake. But for now, it's just such a pleasant surprise. When sometimes when you look at the new releases and it's like darkness, crime, yes. Oh, Bake Off and cake. It was something I didn't know I needed, and who doesn't love cake? That's all I've got to say. So the Great British Bump Off, and I'm gonna have to be careful every time I mention it on this show. You know why? You know why?
Keeping it British.
That is my high recommendation this week. The other one I just wanted to mention, and it was something I mentioned to the guys on the WhatsApp. I want to put a shout out to the artistic and creative team of the new Marvel Predator book. Because I said on social media, I'm going to try this. I'm not going to. I'm going to get rid of all those dispersions of things. I hadn't read anything else. I believe it was only when Tony said about it. There was a series before this that I hadn't read at all, so I didn't.
Yeah, it's just finished on the app actually. It was all right.
Yeah. And I didn't know that by the end of this issue it ties into that. I don't know. What I will say is Netho Diaz, who's the artist for it, is brilliant. Dan, you'll be interested in this. They worked on G.I. Joe before this.
Oh, there you go.
So they're very good at sort of soldiers and weaponry, military stuff. So that was really, the artwork was just really good. It was just the story was like
bit generic, isn't it?
Generic, and it was like they copied and pasted a lot from the Adrian Brody Predator movie, which I like. But
I always find they've got to be careful if you do movie times or stuff like that, and they just keep ripping out lines from the films and just dumping them in it, like looking for. It's like, no, don't do that, man.
The first page is, and that's the thing I got to say. I just want to give a shout out to the people that have created this, because the effort's there. Do you know what I mean? I just sometimes think that when they're writing these sort of movie tie-ins, it's a little, I don't know, maybe it's a shortcutty. I don't want to say anything too negative about it.
Problem with tie-ins is who's it for?
Exactly. Because I'm a Predator fan. I want to read a Predator comic that gives me something fresh, new, something that I'll be like, oh, that's really cool. You can only do that in comics. Amazing. The first page of this is a bunch of soldiers running through the jungle, and they say, what the hell are we running from? I've got the page in front of me now. Damned if I know. Looked like the jungle came alive and gutted another soldier in front of me. What? That's like.
Can you say like they call them predators? It's like they don't.
Later on, there are two people. Spoilers for this story. Some of the soldiers that are in this, they're all taken from different time periods. Don't ask me why. Don't know. I think, but two of them are tied into the awful Shane Black Predator movie. I think. So, and so they talk about we've been tracking them for 8 years, but this happened. We call them predators. I was like, no, we don't. When does anyone? Am I going crazy, gents?
No, that's
ever
never
actually called them.
No,
I don't know. I'm not sure.
No,
I can't think of it. No,
they're just called like alien hunters, aren't they?
the alien race is like the Yakuta or something, isn't it? They do have an actual alien race name.
But when was that mentioned?
I'm not sure if that's mentioned in any of the films.
Yeah,
but these people wouldn't know, would they?
No.
I mean,
I
wouldn't expect the writer to do any research whatsoever.
Yeah.
Or the editors to do any. Yeah,
that's a bit much.
There is a page that I screen capped to the people. Spoilers if you want to read this. It might turn out to be a really good series. I don't know if I'll continue it. You had it right earlier. They're aliens. We call them predators. I gritted my teeth so hard I think I chewed them. I ground them into powder. Anyway, and then they say we have files on them. 3 encounters that we're aware of. Colombia in 1987. LA in 1997, and then in 2018. They were in Mexico, Tennessee, Georgia. We had one then. We were studying it, part of a joint investigation. That's that Predator movie, isn't it? I'm not crazy. That's that.
No, I can't remember, man.
Yeah.
That's fucking... What?
Is that the one with Psylocke in? What's her name?
Yeah. And like...
You're really setting Predator 2 in that basis? Because
LA in 1997 is the one they're talking about. But also,
it's not 97 for the movie, though, is it?
No.
Yeah.
Well, no. The movie came out in 1990, didn't it? But it was set because I watched Predator 2 recently.
It was set in the future, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was set in a kind of an alternate future of LA, wasn't it? It's not.
It's supposed to be like a kind of a RoboCop style future. Where shit.
Yeah.
Perhaps we're overthinking this.
Yeah.
It's.
Overthinking this Predator comic.
Have other people maybe reading this as their first ever Predator comic and thoroughly enjoying it?
True.
I hope so, Alan.
Not for you.
I really hope so. But it wasn't for me. But do you know how to kill predators? This is what they tell you in the book. Do you know how to kill them?
Garlic.
They can't cross running water.
Possibly. They just say bullets. Lots and lots of bullets. And a metric shit ton of luck.
Oh, good. Let's have a plan.
Sorry, I was just going to briefly mention it, but one.
Who's writer on it?
I'm sorry. This is Ed Brisson. So the story could tie into that previous. Like I say, I've got no knowledge of that previous series that you just finished, Tony. So when it ties,
that's just a female being chased through space and chasing herself because she's trying to revenge a particular alien predator character.
Well,
it's all right. It's all right.
Yeah. Well, I can tell you they turn up at the end because the way they're marketing the second issue, it tells you right on the cover.
We said before, like with Predator, what stories do you tell? So and-so's being hunted. And that's pretty much the story, isn't it? Someone's being hunted, and
I just
leave it alone. Yeah. Leave it alone. That's how I feel.
Yeah. To mash up the Danny Glovers here, I'm just getting too old for this shit.
Yeah. But yes, but honourable mention to the creative team. So.
Mash up Jingle All the Way and Predator, where Arnie is trying to get the gift for his son, and he's been hunting through the metropolis by a predator trying to stop him.
God, I'd watch that. Right, okay.
Let's do a porn version of it.
One thing film popped up today, I did just quick mention this, I didn't realise this. Galaxy Quest, we've all seen that.
Yeah.
There's a guy, the actor, I'm not sure his name, but he's called, his character's Tech Sergeant Chen. And whenever he gets introduced on camera, he looks at the camera and kind of squints his eyes. And that's a throwback from where the old days in TV where like a Westerner would be playing an Asian character and they would do that kind of squint at the camera to make themselves appear Oriental. And that's a callback to that. And I was like, fucking hell, I didn't even realise that. And I read something up and it's like, yeah, that's what they did as part of the film to sort of take the piss out of that. I was like, that was an inside joke that completely ran over the top of my head.
Yeah, I get you. Yeah,
the next time you see that film, every time they do like Tech Sergeant Chen, he looks at the camera and does that movement to kind of like mock.
Yeah, because that's that Tony Shalhoub, isn't it?
Yeah.
The monk guy. He's really funny.
It's him in it. Yeah, I like him. He's good normally.
Yeah.
So watch out for that when it pops back on.
Amazing. Okay.
Should we do our last one?
Go for it.
Burger.
Shall I lead off on it, Dan?
Yeah.
So it's Burger, Nothing But Cheap Meat, written by Ben Carey, art by Gorklum, who is a lady from Russia. It's produced by Running Ground Comics, and I'm going to read the little blurb from the back of it. Fever Dream.
Can I just say this cover is one of the most arresting covers I've seen this year?
Yeah. It's like a cover with sort of tumours growing out of a bloke's face, isn't it?
Yeah, like a Junji Ito piece.
It is nice. Yeah, you can see there's an influence there. We had a little chat about that. Yeah, I definitely think that's an influence. Fever Dream, tumour-induced hallucination, extraterrestrial mind control. Well, once you swallow that shit down, it looks the same. This slipped into the ACP email a couple of months ago, actually, funny enough. Running Ground is a project run by Ben Carey and Liam Garrigan, who are based in London, I believe. I had a search on Kickstarter, and it looks like issue 2 is already has a landing page. So I know briefly, I must have missed it because I didn't see it on the shelf in Gosh, but briefly it was for sale in Gosh as well. Black and white, full-on horrors of the flesh. It opens with a kid called Burger. If you read it, you'll find out why he's called that. And he's being told in hospital that he hasn't got long to live. And he wanders the streets and he sees the lives of others living in the company of each other, but he's very much a loner and alone. Then whilst asleep or awake, it's not actually clear whether it's a dream or it's a reality or what's happening to him. He has a moment where I'm going to call it a phallic slug with a pair of spikes on the end of his burrows in through his ear and into his brain. Have any of you guys seen the movie Cronenberg's Rabid? Have you seen that?
Not for years.
Yeah.
Well, she's got like a phallic armpit scorpion thing, which sort of appears from under her armpit and injects people and passes on this rabid thing. And it reminded me a little bit of that. It's that fucking it's horrible looking, you know? But well done. The doctor's useless and he tells him to go home and have some fun, try and get laid and stuff like that. But he goes off and he's very much a sort of incel conspiracy theorist kind of person. And you see like there's this double page spread of him looking at stuff like 4chan and the Silk Road on tour and Bitcoin and all that sort of thing. You know where nutters live online.
Yeah.
That's that sort of area. It plays with a descent into madness. For that reason, I found it really interesting. It's probably something you could pretty much only do in maybe a comic or animation.
Yeah.
There's he's tortured himself. What are you going to say, Dan? Sorry, mate.
He's got this kind of he's been diagnosed with something in his brain, like a tumor or a growth or something.
Yeah.
And the doctor's like, we can't do anything about this, as you've mentioned. And he deludedly think it might be a parasite in his brain from this act that he did when he was younger, somehow related to that.
Yeah.
And he's completely disassociated with everyone. He cannot see himself as a person or with other people, can he? He's totally lost.
Yeah, he's basically an outsider, and the book takes 2 turns, which I'm not going to ruin, but it takes one turn that is like fucking. You wonder how much LSD the dude's done, you know, or how much it's really fucking with his brain because something happens, and then you're back again at his place, and it takes another turn then, which lays it up to be a series, I think.
Yeah,
something murderous. Let's call it something murderous happens in the last few pages. That if you read the press kit they sent through, lays it up to the following series, and I'm guessing the 2's pretty much nearly done at the moment. But the artwork is just like you said, Dan. It's very Ito, that sort of horror side of manga influence, but it's utterly demented. You know, what did you think about it, mate?
I tell you what, I really love the contrast between the textures on clothing and the environment and on people's skin. And it's something you often see in manga where someone will be wearing a leather jacket and it's been fully rendered and looks like that.
Yeah.
And then the skin's quite flawless. And the contrast in that they've managed to achieve in this brings such a real worldness to it. It makes the textures and everything feel very real and vivid. And
he looks washed out and drained and you know, just, you know, pale and an outsider. And, you know, they play with that. There is a moment where he speaks to a girl in it who's his sort of confidant friend, but even he turns away a bit from her, doesn't he? You know?
Yeah, it's really, really was kind of, wow, this is fun. It's really nice. I'll definitely be back in the second one.
Yeah. I mean, it's not mainstream. It's got underground written all over it. It's,
totally.
Yeah. It's very much the sort of small press kind of scene for us. But it's nice to see that people are out there doing this stuff where they're just really experimenting. They're just throwing everything at the page. And like you say, Dan, there's no small amount of art in this book.
No,
this is like full on. There's a couple of pages I thought, well, I'm not sure about that, some of the figure drawing, but it's an underground book, so you feel
the
that that's
is
fine.
Actually popping off the page.
Yeah, just flicking through it. Has a real Wrightson feel about it as well.
Yeah, I can see that, man. Yeah,
pages,
the black and white Wrights and stuff. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, good stuff. So
properly twisted sort of splash page right at the end, inside cover, inside back cover, that it looks like you could just glance over it as like texture, and then you could just stare at all the worms.
Yeah.
And you just start to get lost.
I just actually clocked what that is he's holding. I didn't really see that at first.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, that's the spoiler at the end of the issue.
Yeah.
That bit. Yeah, I've actually ordered the hard copy of this.
Nice one.
Yeah. So and we'll let you know in issue 2 if you're going to get on this. We'll let you know in issue 2 because I suspect they'll probably issue 2 and issue 1 will come out at the same time on the Kickstarter as well. If there's sort of any
sorry, I regret taking so long to address it.
Yeah, sorry guys. Yeah, I know you sent some very polite reminder emails. I must admit. Yeah, which was nice. But so certainly some guys running Ground Comics. Certainly some people I'm going to keep an eye on. We'll message them once we've sent this out. But burger, nothing but cheap meat. Yeah, that sounds fine, doesn't it?
Yeah.
There you go.
And we hope that if you've got a comic, then you'll throw it our way and we can look at it, discuss, and hopefully shout out about it on the show. Or if there's anything that we spoke about this week that you want to hear some more on, or maybe give us your own take, then there's several different ways you can do it. You can email us, awesomecomicspod@gmail.com. Follow us on social media @theawesomepod. Join the Slack group. There's more people are joining that all the time. There's a wonderful community of people on there. Discussion going daily about all different types of, whether it be crowdfunding, art, probably lots of stuff we talked about on this episode and beyond as well. So get in touch with us to join that. We're also on like Facebook, etc. Thank you for listening to us on the whether it was on the website awesomecomics.podbean.com. If you listen to us on Apple Podcasts, then please subscribe and leave a review. It really does help out the show and get us there. Quite a lot of people listen on Apple, so
I do. I use Apple for my podcast.
So please, put a shout out for it, or let us know what you think, because we want to know what you think about the show and stuff.
I think you can leave a review on Spotify as well, can't you? I think you can do it there.
Yeah. So speaking of which, if you listen to us on Spotify, Amazon, Stitcher, Podnose, Podknife, what other networks are we on, Tony?
We're on the Pod Network. Pod. Bananas are actually for eating.
Lovely. I'm not taking that any further. But what I will say is, once again, thank you very much to our guest, Alan Henderson. You are, as always...
Thanks,
babes. Thank you for having me.
I can't believe it's been so long since you've been on the show proper.
Yeah.
So, all the little appearances, and as I say, we if you want to find Tony and I talking about other nonsense, then you'll find us on NIA. So.
No. I'm not having any cross-pollination advertising. No.
We've got another one coming up, haven't we?
Yeah.
But where can people find us online, etc.? Tony?
Neveronanything.com. Easy.
There you go, Dan.
I'm on Twitter @Vanguard Comic. Fuck it. I'm on Twitter @Vanguard Comic. You could read Vanguard at vanguardcomic.com. And if you want to buy any more comics, you can go to dzpublishing.bigcartel.com.
Yes.
Sweet.
And you should also support his Patreon, because there's always sketches. I always love and opening.
Thanks, man.
That Patreon and seeing just getting a little hint about what's coming up in Vanguard. It's always.
We're trying to do it on the app, and typing on the iPad, and if you click anywhere outside where you've been typing, it shuts the whole post down. So there's times where I've written a load of stuff down, accidentally brushed it, and it's cleared it all.
Oh no!
And I do swear quite loudly. I don't think my wife appreciates that.
Amazing, but she's still with you. God bless her.
Yeah.
Lucky lady.
Oh yeah.
Indeed. Yeah. You can find me on social media @JesterDiablo. And on my YouTube channel, we've started another actual play show. So put a link in the show notes. Follow me on social media. I'll be ranting about that as well.
Is that for
Safe Space? Yeah, that's
Safe Space. Yes,
the Mothership RPG actual play.
Yeah, I was going to say Mothership, but it's Safe Space is the series. Mothership is the game.
Yes.
System.
Yes. And it's great fun. This one's a little more colonial marines than the
regular
series.
The things come to an end. The original story.
The first season has finished, but season 2 is on its way.
Might be a marine in it.
You can be marina. Well, it's only 3.
Aquamarina.
Aquamarina. Is the second one tie into the first?
I'd do it.
I don't want to give away too much away.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but
my family used to tease me mercilessly about fancying Marina.
So Aquamarina.
Yeah, that's quite a deep cut.
I'd do it, definitely.
But she was a puppet,
and she didn't talk.
Although Stingray was my favourite of all the series.
Didn't talk.
Had the best. I'm just leaving that, Tony, because I'm just going to let you dig your own ditch there.
Who's that intro sequence to Stingray was an absolute banger.
Absolute banger.
Yeah, it was, yeah.
Best theme tune as well.
Wasn't that the bloke who did Avenues and Alleyways? That bloke?
I don't know.
Was it him?
I don't know. It sounds like a James Blunt album. So anyway.
Can you imagine telling someone one of the big things about the intro was it was in black and white and went to colour? And they're like, what the fuck are you talking about? It's like, yeah, not all TV programs used to be in colour.
Yeah.
I knew a bloke once and his middle name was Stingray. Generally, that's two.
Amazing.
How cool is that? Yeah.
Good.
Alan, where can people find you online? And is your middle name Stingray?
No. Nor is my middle name Brick, and I still don't know why the kid was called Brick. Anyway.
Never tell that joke. That would need to be a safe
space. I never did
that one. Yeah.
So if you want to find me online, just search for Penned Guin on any form of social media.
Cool.
There you go, and you really should, because he's got an enormous library of hilarious comics to check out. I said library, Tony. Don't bring
Ginormous.
Don't. Enormous.
What
an enormous show
episode.
Enormous snob.
Yes, we hope.
That sounds like a character from Harry Potter. Professor Enormous. Professor Enormous Knob has appeared with his wand.
Why is his second name Knob?
That's the family name.
Oh, of course, yeah, I suppose so.
Comes from a long line of knobs.
Yeah.
Just, what a family tree.
My father was a knob. My grandfather was a knob.
My mum was a knob.
Yeah. What a grand.
I want to carry the proud knob name forward.
Carry that knob.
My children will be knobs. Anyway, this is a highbrow show, so thank you very much for listening. Join us next week for more fantastic comic chatter, and who knows, you might also learn something next week as well. Apart from the whole, don't listen to what the host normally talk about because it's just absolutely nonsense by the time
just the guests. We've got an interesting one again next week, haven't we? Another one.
Yeah, so it's going to be well worth checking out. But until then, have a brilliant week. Read loads of comics. Make loads of comics. And we hope you're happy, healthy, and doing okay. Because we love you very much, don't we, Dan?
Yes.
Alan, I know you love the listeners, don't you?
Oh, 100%.
There you go. Tony?
Nah, fuck that shit.
We did get out of you last week.
Yeah.
Tony, you did say love.
Who did I love last week?
You said, I think you tweeted saying we love all the listeners or something.
Oh, yeah, that's why I had to tell that joke.
Yeah,
Sam Harday could talk
a moment of weakness.
Yeah. I think I said much love, and he said, that means you love us.
Oh, dear. For whom could ever learn to love a beast? Shout out to Beauty and the Beast there, the original.
An Orbis snob.
An Orbis. Anyway, enough of this nonsense. See you next week, folks. As always, what should they do?
Stay awesome.
Stay awesome.
That's pretty good this week.
Perfect.
Yeah,
Perfect.
Yeah, Alan, you're bringing the quality control up, and I'm here for it, girlfriend.
Comedy's all about timing.
Yeah.
What?
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
See you later.